And it made me think, like, maybe strikes have diminished wrestling in a way, because you're watching and, like, you just go, well, he's not hitting.
Yeah,
and every match, like in WWE, is like punches and kicks, and you're watching and you're like, well, he's not hitting him, so how can I believe this?
No, I was very impressed. We always joke about Johnny Saint. He was the NXT UK commissioner.
Yeah.
He's also known as your dad.
Yeah.
He does look a lot like your dad, or your dad, I guess, looks like a lot like him. But I was impressed. I can see why this guy is was regarded or is regarded like one of the UK kind of legendary wrestlers. I totally was shocked by some of the stuff that they were doing.
That was a clip from Best Match Ever Europe, where Braden Harrington and Davie Portman talked all about the greatest matches to ever take place in the continent of Europe. You can find that show, plus so many more shows, retro NXT reviews, movie reviews, and so much more by signing up to patreon.com/POISONRANA. And it's only $5. So what are you waiting for?
First time in a long time, but back like I never left. Taking each day as it comes, you know me, I don't read ahead. Watch me burn down everything, BDE on the TV set. When I'm in control on the road, you can never really know what's up next.
Hello. Davie Portman here from POISONRANA on the Post Wrestling feed. And I am here to chat all about NXT in a brand new episode of Up Next. But I am not joined this week by Braden Harrington. Filling in, stepping in, is the super sub himself, the executive producer of Up Next, Mr. Shot in the Dark, John Siino. John, how are you doing?
Say my name and I will appear. I am here on Up Next once again. What's going on, Davie?
I'm good. I just spent a little bit of time before going live today making a commercial advertising our brilliant Best Match Ever Europe show, and then I realized I uploaded the wrong clip, so I had to very quickly unmute my mic and fill in at the last second.
Hey, from somebody watching in the background behind the scenes, to see you actually on the spot do that, like improv, I was impressed. I'm listening and I looked down at your camera and I'm like, he's doing this live as it's airing. That was like, I saw your confusion before, like, the wrong clip played, but the fact that you was spot on with it, I got to give you all the props for that.
Yeah, so I don't know if I need to remake that for the audio feed or not. But yes, we are here. I'll get the plugs out the way very first. We are POISONRANA. We go live usually every Tuesday night to talk all about NXT, as well as having our own podcast feed, POISONRANA, where we do weekly kind of wrestling roundup news shows, as well as a bunch of free shows on our feed, including Shot in the Dark, where John Siino runs through everything you might have missed in the world of wrestling in 15 minutes or less. Siino, what are you talking about this week?
Yeah, so actually this is a good time to maybe listen if you haven't listened to Shot in Dark, if you are an avid listener of Up Next, because a lot of the crossover stuff is obviously happening on TNA, and I do talk about TNA and cover that. So on this past episode, they kind of went through what happened at the last pay-per-view Against All Odds, and they recap what happened with Jordan Grace and everything. So it's pretty good that the fact that they're kind of like crossing the shows over. So I'll fill you in with exactly how TNA is handling it on their end. And as we'll talk about on this show, I'm sure there's things that happen on NXT that will carry over to TNA, as we'll see in the upcoming weeks or so. So yeah, I talk about TNA, I talk about AEW Rampage, Ring of Honor, Women of Wrestling, and so much more in 15 minutes or less. So I'll fill you in on all the little things that are happening, because things happening outside of WWE and AEW, believe it or not.
Absolutely. And just last week, we released a free show. It was one of our shows we recorded earlier in the year to tie in with the Iron Claw. Well, now Iron Claw is out on a bunch of streaming platforms, and so many people are talking about it. We thought we'd release this show for free, and it's Poison Profile, the Von Erichs. Braden and I have started doing these profile pieces where we've been diving deep into kind of the whole career of, or the whole stories of a stable, etc. We've released 3 so far. We started off with the Von Erichs, going through the whole family history, including Fritz Von Erich's wrestling days, watching a bunch of promos, matches, and obviously the tragedies of the Von Erich family. We were really proud of this show, and we thought to tie in with the release on all the streaming platforms, we'd give it to you for free. So we released that last week on our Poison Rana feed. So search for Poison Rana wherever you find your podcasts for that one. As well as, Siino, you have another show with our good friend B Detroit, What Up, Doe, where you guys obviously talk about wrestling, but talking about hip-hop, pop culture, movies, video games, the lot. Just fill us in what you last talked about and maybe what you might be talking about coming up soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of a more of like a freestyle type of shows, as we say, where we kind of talk about movies that I've seen recently. I saw Furiosa, the Mad Max movie. I talk about Bad Boys 4 that just came out. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Some video games that B's been can jump in and out of as well, and kind of like the aftermath of what's been going on with the whole Kendrick Lamar and Drake beef that's still kind of lingering. Actually, as we record this tonight, there actually is going to be a live concert from Kendrick Lamar that I'm a little upset I won't be able to watch live, as I'll be covering Dynamite for Post Wrestling. But there could be some stuff coming out of this concert. You know, it could be the first time he's performed some of these diss tracks to Drake. So hopefully, if that happens, we'll make sure to cover that on the next episode of What Up, Though. But yeah, a little bit of everything. You know, books that I'm reading, movies, shows, like all the pop culture stuff outside of wrestling. And of course, we sprinkle in a little talk. We talk about Swerve Strickland's shoes and the Young Bucks Reebok pumps and things like that. So a fun time as every month when we record, me and B.
And then next week, I believe Braden is recording a brand new episode of Detox with Jordan Goodman. This show's wild. And as Siino's rocking the Rainforest Cafe style Poison Rana's Detox shirt right there in the tie-dye. Beautiful, limited edition. I believe it's now unavailable on Chop-Tees. But yes, Braden and Jordan, they take your questions and talk pretty much about anything but wrestling. Go in with very little plan and just riff for a good 90 minutes. A really fun show you can listen to for free on the Poison Rana free feed. But we have a bunch of stuff on our Patreon as well, as you may have heard at the top of the show. Best Match Ever Europe. Things are getting very European at the moment in the world of wrestling. We're heating things up for All In at the end of the summer. Obviously, Bash in Berlin is coming up later in the year. But we just had Clash at the Castle in Scotland, which I'm sure Siino and I will go into a little bit. So we thought we'd talk about the greatest matches to take place on European soil. And we had 6 matches we were talking about right back from like the 1980s with World of Sport, Steve Gray versus Johnny Saint, through to WWE matches that have happened there. The infamous One Night Only with Shawn and Bulldog, as well as WXW matches, Rev Pro, the lot. And this is part 1 because there were too many matches to pick from. So we're going to be reviewing this again come sort of August, September time. But that's available on the Patreon feed. We also have coming up later this week a review of Family Matters with B Detroit, the Psycho Twins episode, where the family become wrestlers and take on the Bushwhackers. So a bit of a pro wrestling crossover there. Very fun review. That'll be released this Friday. And then next week, already in the can, is our review of NXT from 2014. This was next. It's our retro NXT review, where I believe this week we were talking about the April 3rd edition 2014 of NXT, featuring Emma versus Sasha Banks, Xavier Woods versus Brodus Clay, maybe over the rights of the Better Call Your Mama theme. We're very close to WrestleMania 30 around this time. It's the dawn of the WWE network. We just had NXT Arrival. We're building up to the first NXT takeover. And it's always a fun snapshot to see what was going on in the world of wrestling a decade ago. But all of that's available at poisonrana.com. Patreon.com/poisonrana. Our weekly Sunday show is on a little bit of a hiatus right now. My mum's in town and I haven't seen her for a long time. So just enjoying taking a little break. But we'll be talking a bit more on our Tuesday show about the world of wrestling, other things we've been seeing. And then on June 29th, on the POISONRANA YouTube feed, Martin Bushby is going to be doing one of his marathons, as he will be doing a 12-hour live stream and has so many guests, including myself. Siino, I believe you're going to be on this as well.
Yep. Me and B Detroit, we're going to be joined by Fire Frank for our segment. But yeah, we'll be on as well.
Wonderful. We've got Andy Quilden from Rev Pro. We've got the Grapple lads on this show, WH Park, a whole array of guests, Karen Peterson, the lot. Martin is a madman for doing this for 12 hours straight. Sometimes I'm tired after a 90-minute show, so I don't know what he's thinking, but it's all for a very, very good cause, raising money for charity. A young female football player, or as some of you may call soccer player in the UK, who sadly passed away just last year. And this is a charity stream to raise money for the MC8 Foundation. If you go to at Bushby01 on Twitter or X, you can get all the information of this show, but it will be starting 10 a.m. Eastern time, right the way through to 10 p.m. And it will be on the POISONRANA feed. So go and subscribe to youtube.com/@POISONRANA to tune into that. And we'll be uploading the audio files at a later date. Final plug. It's the summer. Some of you might be going to Money in the Bank in Toronto. I know, Siino, you just booked your flights. You're going to be here in the 6th.
Yep, officially I'll be there. I'll be flying in on Thursday night. I'll be there.
Wonderful. Can't wait to have you back here in Toronto. And if you're not making it to that, you might be making your way to SummerSlam in Cleveland. And even if you're not making your way to that, maybe you're going to Berlin for all you Europeans. But you want to look fresh this summer. You want to go and look like the coolest kid at these wrestling shows. And you know how you can do that? By going to chopped-tees.com. And our good friend Dickie Bird has been working incredibly hard, putting out brand new merchandise for all you lovely, lovely listeners. And these are not your regular wrestling shirts. These are premium wrestling shirts. These are the kind of wrestling shirts you can't get anywhere else. And while I've already got my order in and hopefully will be arriving any day now, the POISONRANA Frog button-up shirt with matching shorts. You can wear this at the beach, you can wear this by the pool, and you can wear this at SummerSlam. It looks so nice, and get your hands on these. They're hand-stitched, personally hand-stitched for you, and sent out. Delivery is always free, included in the price of the merch. But you can get that. You can rock this summery blue POISONRANA retro tee I'm wearing right now. But a whole other catalog of stuff. We've got the What Up Doe baseball jerseys, which look so cool, as well as post-wrestling merchandise. We've got stuff for MCU later, so you can support your boy's rich fan, WH Park. And Dickie's just getting more and more brands hopping over to Chop-Tees. So go ahead, sign up, and you'll get 10% off your first order. And give them a follow on Twitter and Instagram, because Dickie is always running all kinds of promotions for you lovely, lovely listeners to get yourself some sweet merch. Like the POISONRANA hat you're wearing right now.
Absolutely. I just placed my order recently for that combination you're speaking about, the one that's featured on our image here to our right with the Poison Frog button up and the shorts. I ordered that, as well as my own What Up Doe baseball jersey. Of course, I got to wear my own merch, or, I got to be a mark for Chop Tees. And you know what? In the past, I would order stuff and I'd be like, you know what? I don't think I'm going to get it in time. But from the history that I have with chop-tees.com, the amount of speed, the speed that these things arrive in is superb. So I have no doubt in my mind that I'll have it here ready to wear for my trip to Toronto.
It's ridiculous. Like, sometimes, if you remember, I made a very spontaneous trip to North Carolina for Sting's retirement earlier in the year. And, I'd made that decision on about the Wednesday. There's no way I'd have been able to get a Sting shirt in time to wear to that event. But, you might, if you have a last minute decision to go to Money in the Bank, you could probably order something the weekend before and get your merch in time for that. That's how quick Chop-Tees is. Dickie's doing tremendous work, and very proud of him, and very proud for him to be a listener, a supporter, and a friend. There we go, of Poison Rana and Post Wrestling. But that's the good stuff out the way. That's all the plugs. Siino, how are you? What's been going on?
I've been doing good, man. Like, the weather's been really hot here, so I have my AC cranking, as you might be able to hear in the background. Now, I don't know, this blue mic is remarkable, the things it can pick up and the things it can't pick up. But yeah, I've just been enjoying the weather. I got a couple, not trips, but I got a couple things lined up. I'm going to a concert this Friday. It's a jazz club. It's actually Ghostface from Wu-Tang performing with a jazz band at a jazz club, which is really cool. Next Friday, I'll be at SmackDown here at Madison Square Garden. So, like, my son's been wanting to go to a WWE show for a while. You know, he's been kind of dipping his toes at indie shows or House of Glory, but he's like, I want to see a WWE show. You know, he's getting the hype that we're getting. And I had a local show here in White Plains that the prices were so ridiculous. It was like as if you're paying for like a TV show. And I was like, listen, if I'm gonna spend this amount of money, let's just wait till they have like a SmackDown or something. And here we go, Madison Square Garden the week before Money in the Bank. So for pretty much the same price, I got like floor seats, which are gonna be amazing. So make sure you spot us next week on SmackDown. And then yeah, the week after that, I'll be in Toronto. So yeah, just trying to plan a lot of things. You know, maybe Cleveland. I don't know. That's like a if right now. But I definitely like to do things in the summer because that's my free time. After my son's birthday, he goes with his mom for 2 months, so I can like be a rebel and just enjoy life more than I can, you know, without him. So I have a lot of things planned this summer. I'm trying to do a lot of concerts, a lot of trips, things like that. So I'm enjoying this weather and I'm enjoying the great wrestling. I mean, whatever you're watching, I feel like it's great wrestling left and right. It's a good time to be a fan.
Absolutely. Work hard in the winter, play hard in the summer, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's got really hot here. Just the last few days, really, up into the 30s Celsius. Americans work it out. But yeah, it's been pretty hot here. Just been enjoying walking around the city, showing my mum around. We went to the island the other day. I don't know if you've been over to the island yet. Have you?
No, I have not.
We'll have to take you when you're over. It's really nice. A nice little tiki taxi across there. But yeah, got a bunch of wrestling coming up soon, obviously with Money in the Bank and Heatwave. And then I am going to SummerSlam in Cleveland. It's not too bad a drive from Toronto. It's only about 4 or 5 hours. So going to be heading over there with the Post Wrestling crew. And yeah, I've also booked a few concerts. Haven't been to any quite yet, but they'll be coming up pretty soon. So yeah, just enjoy it. The summer's such a great time. And yeah, really enjoying that. I assume you watched Clash at the Castle at the weekend.
I did. I'm honestly loving these overseas shows, especially when they're on Saturdays, because it's like I wake up, I have Saturday off before I have to do Collision and Collision Course, obviously. So when they do these like 2 p.m. shows, and like it's the greatest time for me to watch a show, and then like just the energy, like when you see like a crowd that's been starved for wrestling, and like we saw it in France, obviously we saw it in Glasgow, and we're gonna see it again in Germany for Bash in Berlin. I'm enjoying like these like actual like world wrestling entertainment shows like around the world, and I hope they go. You know, I've been hearing rumors about Mexico, Japan, and whatnot. They're working on all these different companies. Like every day you see something new happening in WWE, and Clash of the Castle was just another example of like a great show, a great atmosphere, and I honestly enjoyed the show. Yeah, there were some booking decisions that kind of could get some people's heads scratching, but I think all the right choices were made, if that makes any sense. Nothing happened on the show that surprised me. Everything kind of was booked the way I expected it to be booked.
Yeah, I mean, when you say booking decisions, are you talking mainly about the main event?
Yeah, it's like, yeah, it makes sense for Drew to win, obviously, being there in his home country. But like, with the story that's going on with CM Punk, I didn't expect him to win the title. I expect him to get screwed out yet again. And like, what's the biggest dick move that CM Punk could do is cost him the world championship in his home country. So I wasn't surprised at all. Out of the 3 home talent, I expected the women to win. Honestly, that was the decision I got right. I didn't expect Bayley to lose the title, and Damian Priest just won the title. I didn't expect him to lose it either. So it made sense for Jade and Bianca. They were kind of like not a makeshift team, but I didn't see them staying together too longer. Who knows if they're going to stay longer after losing the titles? But I kind of expected, like, out of the 3 matches, to the unholy union to be the ones to come out on top, and it was correct.
Yeah, especially with the very sad passing of Alba Fire's mother that same week. Like, I can't imagine the emotion she must have been going through, and obviously would have wanted her mum there. But I think that was the right move. I think you can. Do you think we start building to the split of Jade and Bianca already, or do you see them winning it back, maybe on a SmackDown or something?
Yeah, I wouldn't do it just yet. I'll probably save that for a little bit later on in this year. But I feel like Jade always kind of came off better as a heel for me. So that's obviously the story that I think they're going to be doing here. I just wouldn't do it just yet. I would have the maybe like a little bit more cracks in the structure of the tag team before that happens. And I like to see them tag a little bit more. Obviously, there was that one unfortunate spot with Jade Cargill that everybody's kind of getting her on. But honestly, that was like a reoccurring thing throughout the night. There was a clip where I saw during AJ and Cody's match where the referee literally says to AJ, you can see him mouthing the words like the ropes are loose, and he kind of motions to him. So it was already like a recurring problem, unfortunately, and Jade was the one that had to unfortunately do the botch there. But yeah, as far as splitting them up, I wouldn't do that just yet, but I think that's inevitable.
I think I can understand the like Scottish crowd being disappointed with the Drew win. The Drew loss. But I do think you've got to look at the bigger picture. I think maybe it's, doing a screwy finish twice with Drew in the UK is where you go, come on. But also, I think we know Gunther is challenging for that title at SummerSlam. So Gunther v. Drew, we've kind of seen, and it's two heels. So that doesn't really look right. And then you can't have Punk challenging Drew for the title if Drew won, because Gunther's got the claim to that. So I think the screwy thing, it adds even more to this Punk v. Drew story. And I think with Drew, quote unquote, quitting, I see Drew maybe playing into a lot of the things Punk was doing in AEW, maybe. Who knows? Maybe they create a whole show for him. But I think now and then with Seth's return on Raw, I do see Seth beating Priest at Money in the Bank. And I think if you're looking at Seth v. Gunther, Drew v. CM Punk, and as sort of two big matches, I think that looks way bigger than having Priest v. Gunther or Drew v. Gunther, right? So it does make sense. It can add so much more fuel to this Drew McIntyre character, which is the thing we've seen a lot in like the last year, the justified heel, the heel who has all these gripes and you kind of understand where they're coming from. They're just being a bit of a dick about it. I think it was the right move not putting the title on him. It's a shame this is twice now in sort of home territory that they've done it.
Yeah, and they'll be back there. I mean, obviously the crowds and the attendance has been remarkable in all these European shows that they've been having. So I feel like next year Clash at the Castle has to be somewhere around the area. I'm not sure if it's going to be in Scotland or when. I know they don't have many castles there, is what I've heard. But they'll be back there next year when maybe Drew will be champion, or maybe he'll finally win on the third attempt. I feel like it's not like the last chance that Drew had. And
Drew as a babyface winning, means so much more as well. But yeah, overall, I thought the quality of the wrestling on the show was actually pretty good. I enjoyed the I Quit match with Cody and AJ.
Yep.
I thought it was good. And now things are heating up. Money in the Bank is always a pretty fun show. And and then SummerSlam, I think you've got some big matches already kind of planned for that. So yeah, I think it's in a good place.
Have you been to a Money in the Bank live? Is this your first Money in the Bank?
This is my first Money in the Bank. I've done
mine as well. This was like the last like big show. I've done Elimination Chamber. I've done all like the big four, but like Money in the Bank was like the one that I haven't done yet. So I'm actually looking forward to seeing it live.
Yeah. And say, we get a super chat from Jake from the Windy City. Thank you, Jake. Saw chatter about Easter eggs for a potential Cody and Orton feud. Would love to see that soon. Cody, to me, needs to have that long-term opponent. Absolutely. That's the third big match you could do at SummerSlam is Cody v. Orton. And I did see that there's potentially Bad Blood coming back in October.
Yes.
And it will actually be on the kind of very day of the first Bad Blood. So,
ooh, okay.
If you're doing Cody v. Orton 1 at SummerSlam, you could potentially peak that with Hell in a Cell at Bad Blood, Cody v. Orton, I think makes a whole lot of sense too. So,
and I like the idea of them not using the Hell in a Cell name for the pay-per-view, but using the Bad Blood, which Hell in a Cell was featured in, and like so every year you're not pigeonholed to have a Hell in a Cell match. You could like switch it up one year and do a different type of match for Bad Blood. You can do a First Blood match, but that's definitely the direction they're going to. Obviously, they're teasing like this 6-man match, which I'm guessing is going to be at Money in the Bank between Bloodline, Orton, Cody, and Owen, so you can kind of like progress the story. There was like Jake said, the Easter egg of Randy kind of staring at Cody's title. You could continue that if they do end up doing this 6-man match at Money in the Bank, and then obviously that could be the match down the line between them. Yeah,
and it always used to mean so much more when the commissioner or whoever would come out and yell Hell in a Cell rather than it be, oh, it's October and the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view is coming up. Better just shoehorn these guys, and you'd have. Sometimes it would be the first match of the feud, and it would just feel so backwards. Whereas I think getting away from the, Elimination Chamber is different because it's more of a setup. It's almost like the Royal Rumble. It's to determine your last opponent for WrestleMania. But for Hell in a Cell, I think you can absolutely get away from that.
And these are all the criticisms that like wrestling fans or WWE fans have been pointing at for the last couple of years, and the fact that they're slowly like fixing them, like they might not all kind of be like in your face fixes, but if you like make a list of all the things that people have been complaining about, they're slowly like turning in our favor. So this is just another case. People have been complaining about, oh, Hell in the Cell's coming in October, like you said. What's the Hell in the Cell match going to be? Opposed to like call it Bad Blood, and if you want to do Hell in the Cell, you can.
Wyatt Sicks, they debuted on Raw this week. What were your thoughts?
So, like, obviously the hype going into it wasn't as much as, like, the last thing with Bray with the White Rabbit. Like, me personally, like, I was really invested with White Rabbit. I was, like, texting about it and trying to figure out Easter eggs. This time around, I'm just like, when it happens, it happens. Coincidentally, I have a coworker who, like, just openly came out as, like, a wrestling fan, and he's, like, really into it. So he was updating me. Weeks ago, he was, like, dissecting these numbers, and he's like, oh, it's 617, which happens to be like a Monday Night Raw. So in my head, I already knew that they were going to debut at this show, and it made sense coming after Clash at the Castle. I really enjoyed it. Everybody's like, okay, what's going to happen now after like the big reveal? What's the actual match is going to be like? But this is exactly what I was hoping was happening the first time when Bray when he returned on his last stint. We had the people in the crowd with like these giant, like, the Rambling Rabbit and whatnot. So people, me personally, and other people were like already like, okay, so who's playing this character? Who's playing that character? And we never saw that, obviously, with the ultimate passing of Bray Wyatt. So the fact if this is his vision, the fact that they're able to actually like represent wrestlers in the Vulture and the Abigail, the Witch, and all that. It just, how is it going to translate in the ring? And I want to say Andrew Thompson put out, I want to say in the Post Wrestling Forum, something along the lines of like, this is their characters, but when they enter the ring, they kind of shed all that and it just become regular wrestlers. I'm not sure how that would translate, but they might have to do that. I know people are like saying, oh, there's not a real worker in this group. But no, Nikki Cross is a real worker if they let her be Nikki Cross. Joe Gacy, prior to NXT, he was really doing really well in the indies. So I can see him being like the workhorse of the group. So yeah, obviously the big question is how is this going to translate in the ring? But the segment was awesome. I loved like the one shot going through the back. It looked like Universal Horror Nights, right? You just kind of going through the fog and everything. You see like bodies in the corner, and Chad Gable was there with a gunshot wound to the head or whatever. Yeah. I don't know how they're gonna follow this up next week. But it definitely caught a lot of attention. A lot of people that don't even watch wrestling. I saw like I follow a lot of like movie sites that cover horror movies. They were covering this because they just love the aesthetic of the costumes and the presentation, to the fact where they don't even watch wrestling and they want to tune in next week just to see how this is going to play out. So that's going to be a big decision on what they're going to do. If they're going to bring in fans that don't even usually follow the product, they kind of have to keep this going in a way. But then I've also heard reports of them not really being too supernatural with this whole run of the Wyatt Sicks. So I'm not sure how it's going to work out, but I am intrigued, and hopefully it doesn't go too downhill, but I feel like it has to go a little downhill after this big debut.
I mean, that has been the issue with the whole Wyatt thing since day one. Great setup, great debuts, great re-debuts, and then it's the follow-up. I think, yes, going away from supernatural and being more, this is intimidation games. It's we're not mystical beings. We are human beings who like put these costumes on, put these masks on to just scare people and run roughshod around WWE. I think how they've set it up because we've been having this long shot so much recently, showing you Gorilla and all that, to be able to now use it, showing it all being destroyed was pretty cool. the thing is, how does it translate to the ring at the end of the day? And that's always been the problem with it. And, you know, you don't have the most exciting set of in-ring performers. Joe Gacy, as you said, he can be pretty good in ring, but it's how is this going to translate? I think maybe, you know, Dexter, I've always, and Rowan, to be honest, I've always enjoyed more in tag team settings because they're pretty athletic for big men, but get a bit dull when it comes to a whole singles match. But doing the hot tag and, you know, Rowan doing his big leg lariats and Dexter very similar, I think maybe they'll lend themselves more to, you know, fun tag matches or fun 6-man tags and potential singles. But we'll have to see. I think you need to follow this up on SmackDown, you know, right at the top be, you know, we've added security this week all around the thing. You need to make it feel like a big deal because, you know, people were murdered at the taping on Monday. So it's always how you follow it up. You need to make it feel like this was a big thing that's happened. I don't want them to pretend that, you know, we don't know who these people are. Once their masks are off, we know it's Dexter Lumis.
Yeah, that's what makes me think that they're taking a more serious route with this because, like, they're all promoting it, like, on their own socials. Nikki Cross, Dexter Lumis, Joe Casey, they're just out there promoting it. So there's no mystery on who's playing these characters. So I think that first promo is going to be really important. Like, have them come out and have Bo take off the Uncle Howdy mask and be like, hey, I'm Bo Dallas or I'm Bo Wyatt, whatever name he wants to go with, and just kind of ditch the supernatural aspect, but obviously keep it in parts. But like when you actually wrestle, these are the people that we are, and we're dangerous. We're killers. We're here to win titles, basically.
I think going back to a cult is way scarier than being Magic.
Yeah,
you know, these are people that are trying to continue Bray's legacy since his death and trying to complete Bray Wyatt's plan or whatever it was. I assume, you know, it's the Wyatt Sicks. Bray is number 6 or number 1 even, you know, and that's why you have the 5 here. And I've been watching a lot of cult documentaries recently. I've finished watching Dancing with the Devil. I don't know if you've seen this yet.
I've heard you speak about it, so it's very culty.
And it's very culty, yeah. And I'm watching the program at the moment as well, which is also quite culty. So I find them way more terrifying than Magic, because Supernatural you're watching on TV and you go, well, it's not real. Whereas the idea of people have been brainwashed to join bad organizations and bad things. I think that's a lot more scary. And yeah, we'll see what the follow-up is. This is the first time. It's an interesting landscape as now, because we really don't have gimmicks in WWE, especially, well, on the main roster, certainly. We don't really have gimmicks anymore. Everyone is kind of a human being. Like, you know, Bron Breakker is just a badass who's pissed off and wants to hurt everyone. Ilya's this mad Russian who will just take a beating but still keep on fighting back. Drew is this bloke who feels like everyone's against him and he's wronged. You don't have, you know, your garbage men and your demons and your, like, everyone feels like a real person. So it's how Triple H handles it this time round with his creative vision, rather than, you know, a Bray Wyatt being filtered through Vince and Bruce Pritchard. Anything else before we get into NXT? I think maybe we should, with the NXT kind of going the the prohibited portal route. Yeah. There was an announcement earlier in the week of AJ Styles taking on Marufuji at Noah Destination. Wow. Thoughts on this? July 13th.
This is great. The same day that Io Sky is going to be wrestling at Marigold. So, they obviously hyped this up, and I didn't even think of AJ Styles. Everybody was like, oh, it could be Shinsuke Nakamura because he's done Noah before. But AJ Styles makes perfect sense, right? He has that fan base established in Japan from his time in New Japan Pro Wrestling. So, yeah, I was like kind of taken aback by this. This is exactly what people want to see. They want to see WWE work with all these other companies. There's talks of them possibly talking to some companies in Puerto Rico and in Mexico and doing some more stuff like this. And, you know, if you tell me right now that Backlash Mexico is going to happen at like Arena Mexico, I'm booking my trip. I've been looking for an excuse to go to Mexico. So if you tell me that they're gonna have a show there, do it. But yeah, I just love this idea of them working with other companies, like a Noah, like a Marigold, and like it just brings more eyeballs to both companies. I feel like I personally don't really watch Noah, but if you're gonna tell me AJ Styles wrestling, I'll tune into the show at the beginning of the show, and I'll be introduced to other characters or other wrestlers from the product. Same thing with Marigold. I'll be I already watched their debut show because I'm a fan of Sari and Julia and whatnot. But just gets more eyeballs. I know people that like never would watch like Japanese wrestling. Talking to you, Fire Frank, might actually tune into like a Noah show just to watch a AJ Styles match. I think it's a great idea, and I hope they continue it and to work with all companies. Even like was it Source Strickland put up the idea of this is the time I can actually see WWE and AEW work together. Like if it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen now. You have all like the players with Tony Khan and Triple H that actually are willing to do this now. So why not do it? I think it's great.
I completely agree. I think it's really exciting. It's something we haven't seen in WWE for a long time, and it just makes it feel like WWE part of the bigger world, right? And rather than just being its completely separate thing that ignores everything else going on. I would love, kind of going back to what we were saying earlier with Hell in a Cell, I think the same could be the case with War Games, where you go, oh, it's Survivor Series, so we have to have a War Games. And I don't think that's the case. And I would love, if you're starting to do all these cross promotions, why not do it at Survivor Series? Why not do WWE versus Team Noah, WWE versus Team Marigold, something like that, which would feel so much more fresh. Put it in a market of smart wrestling fans. Put it in a New York. Put it in a Chicago, something like that, and you would draw, and it would be like really quite special. And if you're doing the weekender, you can have on your NXT show TNA versus NXT or something like that. I think there's a really great opportunity to do quite a special show. And even if they don't feel that they want to do a bit of a different kind of like arena, if they don't feel that they could potentially sell a big arena on that, do a Hammerstein Ballroom or something, just do something that feels completely different. That ECW One Night Stand they did in 2005 just felt so different and fresh to everything else going on. And we certainly see that happening, with TNA stars on NXT this week, with the announcement of AJV, Marufuji, and the Io and Kairi and Sari and Julia, all of that going on. I think it's great. I think it's really exciting.
And I like the fact that you could watch like pretty much any wrestling show and honestly not expect on who could show up. Like you mentioned, Drew McIntyre, he quit, right? Yeah. What's stopping him from showing up at TNA and just challenging for the title there? We'll speak obviously about Joe Henry, but he kind of did like a segment after NXT where he's talking to Shawn Michaels like, hey, you never know where I might show up. Him and Drew, they have a connection. They might show up together somewhere and start running shot. Like, you never know. Like, you can honestly tune into any show. I just finished watching episode 3 of Who Killed WCW, and they covered when the Radicals showed up. And I remember me as a kid, I used to watch back and forth. I was like going from room to room watching Nitro and Raw. So when I saw like these WCW guys show up on Raw, it was a big deal. So the fact that it's happening now, and you can see like Ethan Page show up and a Jordan Grace show up in all these different shows, it's amazing. It's really exciting. Like, it actually like makes me want to watch shows live, and I usually don't. I usually watch Raw after the fact, sometimes even NXT the day after. But the fact that I need to I have this urgency of actually watching these shows live, because you never know who might show up, is really exciting.
I haven't quite finished episode 3 yet, but I did find it hilarious that Kevin Nash it wasn't the finger poke of doom that killed WCW. It was blood not falling on me. Okay, Kev, sure.
I also like how Brett and Goldberg are actually on the same page for once, because they both have a disdain for one Vince Russo. Yeah. And speaking on the topic of Goldberg, I read some comments. He was on Busted Open recently, and he threw out the idea of having one last match. If you could pick anybody, and we're just going to assume WWE is where he has the last match, who would you pick? Because my personal pick would be a Braun Breaker to just destroy Goldberg, and we never see him again.
I completely agree. I mean, I think there was a time where I'd have loved to have seen Big E versus Goldberg, just for that was Big E's dream match. Even if Big E does come back to the ring, I don't think I'd want to put him in with a Bill Goldberg at this point with that neck. But yeah, Braun versus Goldberg makes a whole lot of sense.
If it's not Braun, it's got to be Bret Hart, right? Just one more match, Bret. Just you and Goldberg.
Yeah. I always thought if it was AEW, I thought just Orange Cassidy would be such a wild opponent for him. But, he's been shitting on them quite a bit in recent months. Finally, before we get into NXT, could you maybe tell us a little bit about Tatum Paxley appearing on TNA Against All Odds, sponsored by Phil Collins?
That was the name that I guess I at least expected, because they kind of set it up at the at a battleground when you had Tatum Paxley kind of eyeing the TNA title. So when they first announced an open challenge, I think everybody kind of assumed it was Tatum Paxley. She got an okay reaction. Like I feel like not many people knew who she was, but it's like I kept seeing online, like, who's this girl? And it's like, you just saw Jordynne Grace wrestle at Battleground where this girl came out to steal the title. So you obviously know who she is. If you're trying to say she's not a big name, okay, I can understand that, but I feel like we're going to get that. We have Slammiversaries happening in Montreal next month. That could be Natalia's spot, obviously, but I feel like it's a good spot for Tatum Paxley to work out of the Performance Center, outside of Orlando, Florida for once, outside of a different audience. It's great for her, and I hope other people like Brooks Jensen or even a Drew McIntyre to show up on a TNA would be great. But obviously for the younger talent like a Tatum Paxley, I think it's a great opportunity for them to expand and be out of the WWE system and actually wrestle. Not an indie show per se, but it's the closest thing to it. It kind of reminds me of when they were working with Evolve, and they would send Fabian Eichner down there and the Street Profits, and they finally got to wrestle outside of the WWE system, and it worked wonders for them for the most part. So if they continue to do this, I think it would be great. I know TNA has a pair of tapings this weekend in Philadelphia, so possibly we might see some more NXT stars on there. And why not? Why not send somebody there for 2 nights just to kind of have a couple matches and WWE can't use them every week, so if TNA has an empty spot for them, why not use them?
Absolutely. You mentioned Brooks Jensen there. Confirmed fan of Poison Rana. Yeah.
We love you, Brooks. We love you.
He's been going off on Twitter, X. He's changed his name now to Ben Buchanan. His heading image says, "I'm a mark." And then yesterday, Shawn Michaels posted a picture of him with Frankie Kazarian, saying, you just never know who'll stop by NXT. And Brooks retweeted this saying, "Screw you, Shawn Michaels. I gave everything I had to show you, and that pissant company that I was worth investing and never once bitch about. But as soon as the contract came up, you threw me out of there. Holy crap, we got a mark with company money." Also posted a picture of a ceiling light saying, "At the end of the day, I'm always staring at the lights." And posted a picture of a half-drank bottle of Jack with a list. And on one side, it says matches, says Matt Cardona, Matt Tremont, Kenta, don't say his name, Thomas Billington, Von Erich. And on the other side, it says promotions to go to, New Japan Pro Wrestling, AAA, NWA, AEW crossed out, Noah, TNA, and SGW. Soft
That's the
right, yeah,
yes.
The Uganda promotion.
That'd be amazing to see him show up there. If Cody's gonna buy them a ring, why not have Brooks be there to deliver it? Yeah, I can honestly see a lot of this happening. I would love to see Brooks. I think TNA is gonna be the most makes the most sense with the work relationship right now. But if they send him to a Noah, back when Charlie Dempsey was doing these shows for All Japan, one of the names that we presented was Brooks Jensen, because he was kind of doing that old school throwback Old Japan style anyway, so it made sense. Now he's doing a little bit more of a different character, but I would still love to see him in Japan. Send him to Mexico if you can. Send him to TNA, obviously. I'm loving this new gimmick, and it makes perfect sense with it's a perfect timing for him because they're working with other companies, so now you can actually have this loose cannon character that wants to wrestle elsewhere and show up. You never know where he might show up, and it actually is a reality for once.
I even like that they're not highlighting it at all on TV. Last week when he showed up in the commercial break, you just had it came back with Booker being like, "Oh, get him out of here," but never seeing him. Never, they often put the tweets up on NXT, never drawing any attention to this at all to try and add a bit more reality to it. He did put at the bottom of this list 3 more days, so indicating his contract's up at that time. So we could start, from this weekend onwards, start seeing him showing up at different places. But I think it's great, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what he can do in potentially all these companies before coming back to NXT. Right. Well, shall we get into it?
Let's do it.
NXT, June 18th, 2024, live from the Performance Center. And we kick things off immediately with the NXT Championship #1 contender Battle Royal. 25 men. And you have Javon Evans come out. You have Sean Spears is out there. And then say his name and he appears. Joe Hendry comes out. And he says, Cody Rhodes last week said there will be 25 men, but no, it's 24 men and one sensation. And I'm going to go in there and eliminate everyone and take the NXT Championship to TNA. I'm the answer to all the problems because they believe in Joe Hendry. And the I believe in Joe Hendry chant starts as we get to the match. But right away, Oro Mensah, who is not part of the Battle Royal, jumps All Ego Ethan Page, and they tumble out of the ring and start brawling right up the ramp to the backstage area. This is now the 4th time that Mensah has attacked Ethan Page. So it's taken him out of the match. With the bell rings and Joe Hendry is kind of posing and everyone turns on him and eliminates him right away. Well, it's actually Frankie Kazarian, fellow TNA roster member, who eliminates Joe Hendry, and chants of bullshit from this crowd who are very disappointed. But what were your thoughts on Hendry's appearance here?
So I love that he got a really good reaction. Obviously, the crowd is well aware of him. There was kind of like a campaign once they found out about this TNA NXT relationship. Like, everybody wanted Joe Hendry, like, say his name. So the fact that he came out and actually got a really good reaction was great. I know, like, they used to run shows in Florida, but there's been like rumblings, at least in the past, of like TNA possibly finding a new home to record their shows, and Full Sail was one of them. So if that comes to fruition, they actually have like TNA taped at Full Sail while NXT is concurrently taping at Performance Center. It's obviously not too much far of a distance. That would make the work relationship even better. But it makes perfect sense to kind of have everybody kind of gang up on him and have Kazarian, the one other sole TNA guy, eliminate him is hilarious. And they can obviously spin this off to a match if they wanted to on TNA. They interviewed Kazarian after the fact, and he was pretty much saying his gimmick now in TNA is he's the king of TNA, so he wants to be the king of NXT. And he pretty much like was talking shit about Henry. So that match is obviously going to happen. But yeah, just to see him get a huge reaction here was great. I was hoping that he would like get a little bit more time, but that time was given to Kazarian. I think he got like the big treatment as far as outside talent being in here. But yeah, I love. We're definitely going to see him again. Joe Hendry, like I said, did a segment with Shawn Michaels saying you never know where I might appear as long as you say my name. I can't see him appearing like on the main roster, but I could definitely see him pop back up at NXT, possibly as soon as Heatwave.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, in a way, I think having him thrown out right away puts more attention on him than if he just was thrown out in the middle of the match. You know, they gave him a promo and everything. So, yeah, I don't think this is the last we'll see of Joe Hendry.
And for everybody to say, oh, what is TNA getting in return? Like, oh, their guys are always losing or whatever. First of all, when NXT talent is being sent to TNA, the TNA talent is winning. Jordan Grace's got a clean victory over Tatum Paxley. Yep. Not only that, but I had friends myself saying that don't watch TNA that are like, who's this Joe Hendry guy? I like him. And next thing you're doing is they're Googling him and finding out about him. And what do you know? He's wrestling this Thursday at TNA. So you're bringing eyeballs and people to TNA. So for people to say, oh, this is doing no favors to TNA is totally false. Like, even if Joe Hendry is there for 30 seconds, you're still getting people that never knew him to actually find out about him and want to watch more of him. So it definitely helps TNA.
Absolutely. Tony D'Angelo then eliminates Idris Enofe. Sean Spears eliminates Eddie Thorpe. Malik Blade goes for a slingshot and Charlie Dempsey catches him. But Blade is holding on and tries to head scissors him off the rope. But Kemp comes from behind and eliminates Blade, but in doing so, eliminates Charlie Dempsey. So Miles Bourne is yelling at Kemp, being like, what are you doing? And Frankie Kazarian comes up behind them and eliminates them both. We then have Apollo Crews and Humberto Carrillo, just Berto now, I believe, fighting on the apron when Garza comes from the ring and knees Apollo off. During the commercial break, Dragon Lee eliminates Joe Coffey, and we see Luca Crucifino take the bullet for Tony D'Angelo and gets eliminated by Sean Spears. We come back from break, and Dante Chen and Tavion Heights both get eliminated by Ridge Holland. Lexus King then throws out Berto, and starts posing and laughing. Angel Garza teases a handshake, but then smacks Lexis in the mouth and eliminates him. Tank Ledger comes up from behind. Garza eliminates him. And then Tyler Bate picks him up and does the airplane spin. Pretty impressive here. Tank's is a pretty big boy. Spins him round and slams him down. Tank then stumbles around and gets eliminated by Bate. Tony comes back in, delivering big belly-to-belly suplexes and spine busters. Goes to throw out Nathan Frazer, but he holds on. And then Frazer drop kicks Tony D off the apron, kind of setting up because Frazer's wanting that Heritage Cup. Dragon Lee then tries to eliminate Frazer, but gets head scissored over the top rope. They're both fighting on the apron, and Dragon Lee delivers a flash knee, which sends Frazer off the apron. And then Lee and Bate both do the bop and bang to Ridge Holland, which knocks him off to the floor. There's then a bop and bang to Dragon Lee, but Spears runs in, throwing Bate into the ropes, who comes back with his rebound lariat. And then Spears knocks Bate off the apron. We're now down to the final four: Javon Evans, Dragon Lee, Frankie Kazarian, and Sean Spears. And Sean Spears kind of slides under the ropes. Javon Irish whips Dragon Lee hard against the ropes, which takes him out. So now it's Dragon and Lee are left here. They're trading kicks, trading suplexes. There's a big sit-out powerbomb and a combination from Lee, but Spears comes on from the outside and takes Lee out. Evans then goes for a springboard to Spears, but Sean tries to knock him off the ropes. Evans is holding on, goes for another springboard, and Evans throws Spears to the outside, but Spears is holding on. Spears climbs to the top, leaps off, and eats a super kick. And then Javon Evans gets bouncy and does his Osprey-esque flipping kick, and then clotheslines Sean Spears out of the ring. And Javon Evans wins the Battle Royal, and the graphic comes up showing it will be Javon Evans versus Trick Williams at Heatwave.
I was actually a bit surprised by that, especially with how the match started, because when Oro Mensah came out and took out Ethan Page, he never eliminated him. They went through the ropes.
No.
So the entire match, I'm just expecting Ethan Page to show back up. But then at the very end, they did the same spot with Sean Spears where he got knocked out. So I'm okay, well, they're saving that spot for Sean Spears. I doubt they're going to do two of the same returning characters coming in. But obviously, Ethan Page has a gripe because he never got eliminated, so he can kind of use that to his advantage. But I loved how this match, number one, didn't have too many TNA guys. Like, when I started the show, the first face I see in the middle of the crowd is Frankie Kazarian. I'm like, is that Kazarian? So I was hoping that there wouldn't be too many TNA guys, and there wasn't. It was just him and Henry. And then you had some representation from Raw and SmackDown with Apollo Crews and LFO and whatnot. Sorry, LWO, not LFO. So that was cool how they didn't put too many outside talents. Kazarian makes sense. I mean, judging by his tan, he probably lives like across the street from there because I'm sure he's a Florida guy. So it makes sense if he was in the area to use him. And obviously, Henry had a lot of support. But what I loved about this, and I feel like a lot of the recent Battle Royals have been doing this, is they try to incorporate a lot of different storylines within it. So you had like the Dempsey and Damon Kemp. Dempsey getting eliminated by Damon Kemp by accident. That set up a program later on. You had the spot with Nathan Frazier eliminated Tony D'Angelo, so you set up that match as well. So I do like how they have a lot of different like storylines happening at the same time that kind of keep it going. I did find it funny that Idris Enofe put up a tweet saying he like bought tickets or flights for his entire family to Toronto to watch him win the title against Trick Williams. So I thought I'm like, okay, he's obviously not winning. But yeah, this is a really good Battle Royal. The only thing that kind of like really surprised me was Angel Garza eliminating Alexis King because they're both like heels. And I'm like, that's a little weird. Like, that's not really going to lead to anywhere, I feel like. So yeah, but other than that, like, I was a little surprised by Javon Evans. I really thought that Ethan Page was going to come in and that'll be his way to get a title shot, which he probably will get. But the fact that they kind of like threw us off by having Javon Evans winning and we're thinking it's him and Trick at Heatwave was a good way to set that up.
Yeah, obviously they pay it off later in the show, but I was kind of surprised at the time. I was like, wait, you're showing up the graphic? Is this not, doesn't Ego still have a say in this? Obviously it's paid off later. Yeah, I agree. I thought this was a fun Battle Royal. Some fun spots in there. I think when you're doing about any kind of multi-person match, you should be trying to tell different stories as it goes on. And I thought this was pretty successful at that.
And I always have to throw in a little cage match statistic. This is Frankie Kazarian's first WWE match since August 2005 when he wrestled Paul London on an episode of Velocity. He had a very brief stint on SmackDown, I want to say, back in 04, 05. So, yeah, it's been a while since he's been in a WWE ring.
I was kind of surprised they didn't give him an entrance. You know, you had a couple of entrances at the beginning just to get that surprise of, oh, Frankie Kazarian.
Well, I think they already had, if I'm not mistaken, I think Shawn Michaels, like you said, he had already tweeted the picture with Kazarian. So I think people already knew that he was going to be in the match. So maybe that's why they didn't really have the pop of the entrance.
We go to the women's locker room, and it's kind of all the sort of NIL girls here. And they're all talking about how they can't wait to get a shot at Kelani Jordan's North American Championship. Fallon Henley comes in and says none of them deserve a shot. And I think it's Ren Sinclair questions, wait, didn't you have a shot at Battleground and you didn't win? And they're all arguing. And Sol Ruka, who's just sat in the background, gets up and leaves. She doesn't want any of this cattiness that's going on here and just gets up and walks out.
It's funny because last time I filled in for UpNXT when I did the show with Braden is where they first introduced Carlee Bright, and he had no idea who she was. And I know the entire Carlee Bright, Kendall Gray backstory that I informed him. So you missed out on her introduction, but now that I'm back, of course, Carlee Bright and Kendall Ray are back on the screen. So basically, yeah, they look alike, and they met each other at the PC, and they were like, we look exactly like each other. Let's be a tag team, and they formed a tag team. But the funny part is, Carlee Bright is like cheerleader, that's her background, and Kendall Gray is like an amateur wrestler. So even though they look similar, their styles are totally different, hence the bright gray dynamic that they have. So they obviously set something up with Fallon Henley that we saw later on in this show. But I'm loving Sol Ruka. She's been doing this for a couple weeks now, where like all these girls are like bickering in the background, and Sol Ruka just gets up and leaves or wants nothing to do with it because she's chill, she's calm. That's not her character at all to bicker like the rest of them. So I do like how she has a very distinctive personality. Then like hate to admit it, but most of the NXT are just yelling, bickering backstage, wanting a title shot. So the fact that Sol just gets up and leaves is hilarious, and I love it.
It's definitely refreshing. I wonder how it translates when she's getting into more prominent stories, especially on the main roster. You can't always just look like you don't really give a shit, you know? But it is refreshing, especially because, the NXT women's locker room are just always bickering and yelling at each other. And Carlee Bright, and sorry, what's the other girl's name?
Kendall Gray. It's Bright
Kendall
and Gray.
Gray.
Yeah.
So the Doug and Danny Basham of NXT here.
Exactly. And you know what? Like, because obviously in NXT they like to play with like babyface heel dynamics. We're seeing it right now with Roxanne Perez, where everybody just assumes she'll be a babyface for life. This could potentially set up a Sol Ruka heel turn because you have her kind of like trying to favor Kelani Jordan, like, hey, I'm the good guy here. I'm supporting you. We saw her later on support her or whatnot, to the point where Kalani's like, okay, you'll get a title shot. And what does Sol Ruka do? She might just snap on her and become heel. And then we see this whole different side of Sol Ruka that she fooled us all, right? She was cool, calm, and collected. And next thing you know, her real intentions were to get the title. So that would be a cool way to like transition her to a heel if they wanted to do that.
I agree. I don't think now's the time for that. I feel she's still very popular as a babyface, and her moveset is very babyface friendly as well. So down the line, but I do see there being a bit of a babyface North American title run in her maybe before that. We see Lola Vice, who's training backstage, punching and kicking one of those body bags, where Roxanne Perez, the champion, walks in and says, I saw you eyeing up the championship last week, pretending to be my friend and then wanting my title. And Lola says, I ain't pretending with anything. I do intend to get your championship, and I'm going to knock out everyone to get to that title. And Roxanne says, well, I don't trust you or anyone, but tonight we're going to team up in a tag match, so let's go handle business. We see Chase U, and they're bigging up Ridge Holland, and they're like, you did great out there tonight. You may not have won, but you were really impressive. You eliminated 2 people at the same time. And Duke has received a text from Riley, who is in the UK right now, that just says, how about your boy Ridge? Which I quite liked, because that could read as, how about your boy Ridge? She was impressive tonight. How about your boy Ridge not getting the job done? I thought it was worded.
That's how I saw it. At first, I'm like, that's weird for Duke to get like an encouraging text message from Riley about Ridge, but it makes perfect sense. Like, you know, we've all gotten that text message where we're like, excuse me, what did you say? And then you're like, okay, wait, I might have read that out of context. So it makes perfect sense. Like, where next week, like, Riley might show up and it's like, we thought you liked Ridge. And he's like, no, bro, I was like trying to ask you what's going on with him. Why is he with our group? And yeah, they handed him a shirt here. So I guess he's an official member of Chase U.
So they hand him the shirt. He says it fits like a glove. And the Good Brothers come in and say, what's happened? You've gone from a brute to a nerd. And Duke Hudson and Andre Chase step up and say, you got a problem with him, you have a problem with us. Setting up a tag match for later in the evening. And as they're about to leave, they call Thea a kid, and she gets all scrappy-doo and mad about it. We go to our next match. It's a triple threat tag team match. Lash Legend and Jakara Jackson taking on Jacy, Jayne, and Jazmyn Nix, taking on Roxanne, Perez, and Lola Vice. And this is what I call is the NXT triple threat tag rules. So it's 3 people in the ring at the same time, and you can only tag out your partner, rather than, you know, we see it sometimes with 2 people in the ring and you can tag anyone. I prefer this setup way more. It makes way more sense for me.
Yeah, it's a lot more fun. And I loved Lola Vice. Like, she was dancing to her music and then she had to stop because of Roxanne. But once Roxanne's music hit, she just kept dancing. She just got right on beat and kept dancing. But I do have one question. Obviously, Cody Rhodes gave his dashing mask to Jacy Jayne. Why doesn't she just wear that? Why does she wear the Cody mask on top of her own mask? Like, it's a little weird. Like, I don't understand that.
Yeah, so Jacy comes out and she's sort of looking at the dashing mask transfixed and puts it on the turnbuckle in the corner. But she looks almost mesmerized by it. Like, it's got some possession over her or something. We get Lash, who's taking on Jacy and Rox to start with. She grabs them both, one in the fall away slam position, one on her back, and does the I think she calls it the dribble or something like that. She's bouncing them against the ropes.
Yep.
I hate this move. Impressive strength, but it just looks so silly to me. There's then a head scissors from Jacy Jayne, followed by a shining wizard from Nix. Lola then tags in with her very quick, rapid kicks to Lash Legend. Jakara then sends Jayne into the ring steps, and Roxanne hits a tope suicida, taking out Jakara Jackson. And Lola and Rock show they're on the same team, giving each other a high five. Vice then does running hip attacks to both corners to Nix and Jackson. And then Lash Legend delivers a double power bomb. Very impressive strength here. And then a wheelbarrow cutter combo from the Metaphor team. But the pin is broken up by Nix. Nix then delivers a Pele kick. Lola comes in with her 305 back fist. But Roxanne Perez tags in and hits Pop Rocks to Jakara Jackson for the win. And Lola looks a little bit upset that that kind of Rock stole the win here. And at the end, they're kind of holding each other's arms up, and Lola's looking at the title. And then Perez this time delivers the back fist to Lola, knocking her down, and walks off. But Lola almost has a smile on her face here. Like, okay, I see.
She knew what she was doing. Exactly.
Exactly.
Number one, I love whenever Lola Vice does the hip attack. She has to scream out, "I'm a Latina." Yes, we are well aware that you are. But I do like the fact that, like, and you guys mentioned it with Michin in the Battleground ladder match, how they put like established veterans or people that have a little bit more experience with like the rookies. So you have like a Jacy Jayne who's been doing indies way before WWE with a Jazmyn Nix. You have a Roxanne Perez who's been doing it for a while with a Lola Vice. So the fact that they're mixing it up and teaming up, it definitely, you could definitely tell the rookies do so much better when they're with these established veterans. Like a Jazmyn Nix, like they're obviously using her soccer background with some of her moves like the Pele kick, but when they're mixed up, you can see the difference when they're mixed up with established veterans opposed to like on a level up where I'll see like an Izzy Dame fight a Carlee Bright and the match obviously doesn't really click because they're both learning on the spot. So that when they're mixed up with like established veterans, it looks so much better. Yeah, the match was great here. Obviously is to go to the singles match, which I'm assuming is going to be a heatwave between Lola Vice and Roxanne Perez, but a good way to establish it. And Lash Legend has really come a long way. I feel like when she first started, she was getting a lot of criticism. She's advanced a lot better than Jakara Jackson, only because Jakara, she unfortunately had a couple injuries, so she really hasn't been able to wrestle as much as Lash Legend. So it definitely shows. So yeah, I see high things for Lash Legend. And one last note that I saw, Roxanne had a armband for Kirsten, which is a young fan of hers that recently passed away that she put up a post on social media about. So that was what that was for. But as far as the match goes, yeah, it was a good way to kind of establish like the newer talent opposed to the more established ones. But obviously we're leading to this Lola Roxanne match at Heatwave.
Yeah, I was just trying to find out what this armband was because I did notice it as well. But yeah, that's very sad. Yeah, I thought the match was good. I agree with you. I think Lash Legend it took her a while to kind of step up, but she's really improved. And I think she really showed it when she filled in last minute for that match where we had who was it that got injured? Yeah,
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, somebody got injured and she like at the last second took her spot. Yeah,
she was impressive then, and I thought she stood out in this match. And obviously her feats of strength always look good. But I thought this is the best Jazmyn Nix has looked as well. I thought I agree with you. Putting them with the veterans definitely helps. But I didn't think anyone looked weak in this. I thought it was a fun match. I think doing the triple threat rules, it just allows for, the pace never stops. There's always something happening. And I thought it was impressive. And I like the direction of Lola and Roxanne. Lola is technically a heel, but she's winning over fans. Everyone seems to like her. So babyface going into this match. And I could see it potentially going on her. But I think she's someone who's really stepped up as well. So, and going against one of the best there in Roxanne Perez. So I like that direction for Heatwave. And I like how they're telling the story so far.
Yeah, it was Shotzi that Lash had replaced when she had to wrestle Lyra Valkyria. So she stepped in to wrestle Valkyria.
Right.
Yep.
We go backstage to Ava, who's congratulating Javon on his win and heading to Heatwave when Ethan Page comes in and says, "Look, what's happening? I've been attacked now 4 times. You need to do something about Oro Mensah." And Ava says, "Well, I've kicked him out of the building." And goes, "Well, that's not enough. He should be fired for what he's done. And I don't know why you're celebrating because I'm still in the Battle Royal. No one's eliminated me yet." He calls Javon a 20-year-old goofy-ass kid. And Javon says, "Yeah, well, this goofy-ass kid has another match in him." And we set up the main event for tonight, which is lucky because we didn't have any main event set for tonight.
Thank God.
There we go. It's a number 1 contenders match, Ethan Page versus Javon Evans. So our questions from earlier are now answered with Page getting that match.
I was a little surprised by this. Obviously, I thought they're going to maybe do Oro Mensah versus Ethan Page, since Ethan technically wasn't in the match. But it makes more sense storyline-wise to have him fight Javon to get back in the title picture. But we're going to have to eventually get this Oro Mensah Ethan Page match before Heatwave, you would think, right? He really freaking hates Ethan Page, and we haven't even seen Noam Dar. Like, he got taken out. We haven't seen him at all since all this happened.
Is he? Do you think he's legit injured?
He might be, because at one point they were kind of like hyping him up as the next challenger for Trick Williams, and that kind of
had the contract signing and everything for the match, didn't they? So I wonder, and we haven't really seen him since.
No.
Yeah, I think we'd need we've got 3 weeks till Heatwave.
We have 2 more episodes of NXT, so we got next Tuesday and the week before. Yeah.
So I see. We already know next week's matches, but maybe the week after we have Oro Mensah versus Ethan Page, and whether it's for the Heatwave spot or to insert Mensah or to pick a stipulation for the match or something, I don't know. But I see us blowing that off before the Heatwave match because it's kind of still an open thread right now.
Yeah, because if they don't go ahead and pay that off, everybody's going to expect Oro Mensah to show up at Heatwave during if they do a 4-way match, they're going to expect them there. So they kind of have to nip this in the bud and kind of get it over with so Ethan Page can kind of move on to other things.
So we see Kelani Jordan walking backstage to head for her North American title defense, and all the jobbers eyeing up the title. And then Sol Ruka says, "Go kill it." So yeah, obviously kind of teasing a Sol Heatwave match there, I think. And question for you, is it the Women's North American Championship or the North American Women's Championship?
It is the Women's North American Championship. And I know this because I have to always update it on Cage Match. And if you do something incorrectly, it'll fix it for you or tell you that you're wrong. So yeah, the Women's is always in front of the actual name of the title. Same thing with like TNA is the Knockouts World Championship. So yeah, it would be the Women's North American Championship.
Gotcha. So it's Michin taking on Kelani Jordan. We get a head scissors takedown from Michin, from Kelani, but Michin cartwheels out of it. Kelani kips up. The Good Brothers now come out, which distracts Kelani a little bit. Michin offers her hand for a handshake, but then pulls Kelani in for an arm drag. They're now both trading arm drags. Michin showing off her veteran instincts here as she pulls up as Kelani's going for like another arm drag. So Kelani falls down for a 2. Michin's just always kind of one step ahead here. Michin gets thrown into the ropes and does the sort of Spider-Man tranquilo pose in the ropes. Then goes for a tope to the outside, but Kelani moves out the way. But Gallows catches Michin. Kelani then hits a slingshot corkscrew plancher to the floor, followed by a sort of Impaler DDT facebuster kind of move here for a 2 count. She goes for a handspring clothesline, but Michin catches her with a clothesline of her own. Michin sets up for Eat Defeat, but Kelani counters with the RVD-esque step-over wheel kick. Kelani climbs to the top, but gets caught in an electric chair, but counters this with a Poison Rana, and then goes for the one-of-a-kind split-legged moonsault, but Michin moves out the way. And then Michin hits this kind of cradle package neck breaker. It's kind of similar to the wing clipper that Angel Garza does. And this is where OTM come out to confront the OC. Michin climbs to the top, and as the ref is distracted by OTM, Jada Parker shoves Michin off the top rope, but Jordan doesn't see this and hits the one-of-a-kind moonsault for the win.
Yeah, this is a really pretty good match. I want to see a really good match, but there's a lot of things happening here. Like every time I see like OTM, I have to remind myself like, okay, wait, who are they feuding with again? Yeah. And I'm like, okay, yeah, they did have the thing with the Good Brothers last week. So when they came out, I was a little confused, but it made sense for Jada Parker to come out there to cause a distraction. Nice Poison Rana from Kelani. Nice little matchup. It wasn't the best from either one of them, but it's Kelani's learning on the job, right? And she's learning against a veteran like a Michin. But speaking of OTM, I pour one out for Scripps. I just recently saw his first ever indie match at GCW against Jack Cartwheel, and I was actually really impressed. Like, he's obviously using a lot of his circus skills, his Cirque du Soleil skills, but the match was really impressive. And I kind of threw something out there on Twitter about him possibly coming to House of Glory and working with the other circus boys in the main event, and they all started liking it and retweeted it and commenting. Nice. I'm like, I think I'm gonna just book the match here. But yes, shout out to Sydney. But yeah, as far as the match goes, it was okay. But obviously they're just leading to either a six-man match between OTM and the OC, or just a singles match between Michin and Jada Parker.
Yeah, I think Kelani's great. I think she's got such fan-friendly offense, borrowing a lot from RVD, but why not? We haven't really seen any other woman do that, so take it, go for it. And she can hit those moves pretty nicely. I like the story with kind of Michin being one step ahead of her throughout the whole thing. Not overly keen on Kelani kind of getting a bit of a dodgy win this early in the run. Yeah. But on the other hand, I do like how they're setting up multiple women's feuds. Multiple feuds in the women's division without necessarily being about the title. So here you've got Michin and Jada Parker going at it, and that's only going to help Jada, feuding with a veteran here.
And honestly, like, some people might not pick up on this, but like, just to see like Jada Parker's reaction, like when she pushed her off the top rope and kind of headed to the back, just to see her reaction and her facial just like shows you how much like a character can show by like their reactions. Because you could have did that and not even have a bland expression on your face, but just to see like her giddiness and whatnot, you can see the developments really coming out. And that's something that Kelani kind of lacked for a while. I feel like she was very bland, and now she's finally starting to like break out her personality a little bit. And I feel like Jada Parker had it from the start. Nothing against Kelani Jordan, but it's good to see like different progressions on how you're able to express your character from these two women.
Ethan Page is interviewed by Kelly Kincaid, and Kelly says, "So you were only in the Battle Royal for a few seconds." Page interrupts her, "Wrong, I'm still in the Battle Royal. And at Battleground, Trick didn't face me at my best. I was jumped earlier in the night. So I wasn't fully fit, and then I let my emotions get the better of me. But at Heatwave, I will be at my best. And tonight, I will beat Javon, and I'll go on to win the NXT Championship. We go to Nathan Fraser and Axiom, when Axiom asks him, what the hell was that all about? Why didn't you tell me you were going to be in the Battle Royal? And Fraser says, well, why were you not in it? And Axiom's going, well, because we're the tag champions right now, and that's what we should be focusing on. Last week, you were eyeing up the Heritage Cup. This week, you're eyeing up the NXT Championship. And Fraser says, well, I did eliminate Tony D'Angelo. And that's when Luca Crucifino comes in, offering a contract for the Heritage Cup match next week. Quite honorable, the family right now. Like, Tony's like, all right, fair play. You eliminated me. You get a shot at my title. And Fraser signs it immediately. Luca comments on his penmanship. And Axiom's just annoyed with Fraser here, saying, unbelievable. Fraser's like, well, we've literally got a week off next week, so why not? But dissension here with the tag champs.
Yeah, they're kind of continuing this where like Fraser's kind of like being a little selfish and Axiom's like, focusing on tag division. I do like how Tony D just was very honorable, because that's like a mafia thing to do. Like, yeah, they might murder you in cold daylight, but like they're still, they kind of play by the rules. So Tony D says, you eliminated me, you get a title shot. But Nathan Fraser, rule number 1 for signing contracts is you must read the contract, because you don't know what you just signed to. You could have signed to this match that says if you lose, you owe us a tag team title shot or something along those lines. So you always got to, read the contracts. It could have been just a regular contract. Who knows? But yeah, this is obviously they're continuing this, and I think it's obviously going to lead to them losing the titles, possibly to like a Luca Crucifino and Stax could be the ones to take the titles off of them. Before this, there was a segment. I don't know if you were able to catch it. It was a little video for Izzy Dame. Did you see this?
Oh, I missed this.
It was basically just showing her like doing volleyball and kind of how she's able to transition her powerful volleyball skills to her power in the ring. But one funny part here was that the NARPs can't hang with her. Do you know what NARPs are?
Knox?
NARPs, N-A-R-P.
No.
NARPs are non-athletic regular people. So I might be classified as a NARP. I'm not sure. So NARPs can't hang with her because it is what it is, because her name is Izzy. So everything has to have an is in it. So yeah, we're all NARPs, Davey.
I was just going to say, I think most of the people listening to this podcast are probably NARPs.
Yeah.
Bless you all. No offense. We go to highlights of Tatum Paxley versus Jordan Grace from Against All Odds. And then Oba Femi comes out. Oh, I just wanted to say, sorry, on the previous segment, I do see them losing the tag championships, and Fraser needs to turn heel. I know his ring style doesn't really lend itself to it, but character-wise, he's incredibly irritating. So yeah,
he just sounds like an asshole. You might as well be a heel. Exactly.
I'd turn him heel for sure. Obafemi comes out and he says, this feels familiar, doesn't it? Still North American champion, still ruler of NXT. And it doesn't matter how many people step up, the result is still the same. I flew to Vegas and did what I do best, dominated 2 men. Came off a little weird. Joe Coffey and Wesley, 2 of the greatest NXT have to offer, but they're not like me. There's nobody like me. Look at my eyes and riddle me this. Who can take this title away from me? This is where Wesley comes out and says, to answer your question, that will be me. You, me, and everyone here knows that you didn't beat me. You pinned Joe Coffey. Anoba says, your obsession with this title is irritating me. And this is where something clearly happened in the crowd with an unruly fan. Did you catch this?
Oh, this was Brooks. This was Brooks Jensen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, at one point you clearly can see him. So they played it off as if it was a fan. That's the whole idea. But it was clearly Brooks. You see it at one point pop up. And later on, there was a segment that you might...
This was done really well then, because
it was.
You saw...
And the fact that, Wes and Oba are like playing it off as if they were literally distracted and to carry on the show per se. And they did a wonderful job. Like they tricked you, right? So they did a really good job presenting this.
Yeah, they played distracted. Like it looked like they kind of lost where they were. But if it was Brooks, that's fantastic. My favorite thing about it, though, was they try not to catch him on camera, but you saw the shadow of the security pinning someone down, and it just looked like a silhouette of, you know, someone just beating a guy to the ground.
It was great because, like, when they cut to Oba,
well
you see things behind Oba happening, and then when they cut to Wes side, you see a security guard behind Wes, like, run out of frame. So you saw all this stuff happen in the background of fans turning around and everything. Yeah, then not only tricked you, they tricked one of my friends texting me saying, "Oh, this is what happened at NXT last night with a fan." I'm like, "Oh, that's not a fan. That's Brooks Jensen. He's been doing this every week now." So the fact that they're tricking people is really cool. Yeah. There's a segment later on, another Easter egg with Brooks that you might have missed as well. So I'm definitely like trying to be keen with my eyes to spot certain things here. But this is really well done. And I love the fact that like Wes and Oba didn't call attention to it. They kind of had to like stay on track and keep their, keep the promo going, be professional about it while this is all happening in the background. I thought it was well done, really well done. Shout out to Brooks Jensen for this, for sure.
Yeah, I wonder if eventually they'll start drawing attention to it on commentary. Kind of, how the barcodes they just ignored, and then they're like, "Oh wow, we've been seeing all these barcodes on TV." I kind of like that they've been very subtle about it, and just like if a fan interferes, they cut away. They never say on commentary, "Oh, well, someone just jumped the barricade there." They pretend it never happened because they don't want to give that person the time of day. So I like that they're going that route with it.
And I do like how in all the segments, if you like freeze frame at a certain particular spot, you'll always be able to catch Brooks. Like a couple of weeks ago when he like rushed Vic Joseph on commentary.
Yeah.
If you freeze it at one point, you can actually see Brooks there. And same for here. There's like, I got to show you the picture later. There's a spot where you see Oba's face, and in the background, you just see Brooks Jensen's head just like peeking out of the security guard, which is like hilarious. And then obviously the cam footage is going to spread here. I feel like the NXT, the fans probably are like in on the whole angle, and they're like they're promoting the run-ins or whatnot. They're showing out on social media, so they're definitely doing a good job with this whole presentation. I hope the payoff is good. I that's been like one of my questions. Like, well, how are they going to pay this off? Like, okay, he's going to work in outside companies, but then what's going to happen after that? He's going to be reinstated in WWE. Like, I don't know how they're going to handle that part of it, but I mean, yeah. I'm intrigued.
Wes says he was offered to be in the Battle Royal, but declined because he's focused on being North American champion once again. And Oba just says, "I'm done," walks off, and Wes yells, "Don't turn your back on me." And he goes, "You have everything going for you. You're making headlines every week. Superstars like Big E say you are his favorite superstar. But people saying you're the greatest North American champion, everyone knows what I am to that championship. And you'll be facing a different Cardiac Kid one-on-one. And you understand why it is my name in all of the record books." Oba says, "These people really believe that you can win back this championship. But that doesn't concern me. All that concerns me is changing the record books. And I will give you your one-on-one. But this will be the one and only time you will face for this as long as I am champion." So Heatwave, Oba Femi versus Wesley for the North American Championship. I really like this segment. I thought both came across really well.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this. Number one, I love everything about Oba Femi. Like the way he walks to the ring, the way the fans are going, oof, the way he talks, like everything. And obviously his power is remarkable. I just love his presentation. And I honestly feel like it's going to translate really well to WWE, similar to how Braun Breaker is kind of expanded now in the main roster. I feel like Oba's going to have the same type of treatment. I was a little surprised by this match, honestly, because I figured that like Wes was still involved with Gallus. They're still kind of teasing him, getting some backup. And as we find out later on, Gallus is heading to a totally different direction, it looks like. So I'm not sure what happened there. But even like this segment, I kind of expected Oba to maybe say no again, walk off. Gallus walks in, attacks Wes, and that's how you set up the Rascals. But no, they're doing straight up this one-on-one match. But they have the stipulation that this is his last chance. So yeah, you can go either way. Wes can win the title back, which I don't think he needs right now, or you can lose it and then go after bigger titles in the world title.
You could always do at Heatwave, Gallus try to cost Wes, the Rascals jump and take them out, but still the distraction leads to Wes losing, which somewhat protects him. We don't know what the next show will be after Heatwave, but you could always do that six-man tag after Heatwave. And then I totally see pushing Wes into the world title picture for sure.
And I could be wrong, but I don't think they officially announced this match for Heatwave. Last I saw, the only official match was Trick and Javon Evans. So there is I highly doubt it, but there's a slight chance that maybe this match just happens on TV and then will lead to a different match at Heatwave. That's a possibility because they haven't officially announced it just yet.
Gotcha. But I love Obafemi's presence here. He comes across almost like a god. You know, he respects Wes, but still he's just a mere mortal. And it's like just a god looking at ants, if you know what I mean, with everyone else there. And I think for someone so new to this, he just carries himself so well. In-ring still has work to do, but his feats of strength are enough to carry him through where you're impressed. And I think the last two NXT PLEs we've had, the triple threats have been one of the highlights. And I think this should be, if this is on Heatwave, this should be excellent as well. But very high on Obafemi.
And I love how he's like, without even trying, he just comes off cool. He even comes off kind of funny sometimes, like unintentionally funny. He's like one of my favorite parts of NXT, and he really reminds me of M'Baku from Black Panther. He has the same type of energy as him, and that was like my favorite character from that movie because he was this big menacing presence, but he also like was funny and he also was cool at the same time. And Obafemi gives me the same type of vibe, and I see nothing but big things for him. Like obviously Wes mentioned how Big E is like bigging him up lately, so I feel like he's probably a favorite of a lot of wrestlers right now.
Yeah. We see Hank Walker consoling Tank Ledger. Tank says he blew it. And he was like, I was all tanking up, but I couldn't get the job done. These guys, Braden and I always comment about how they're trying out new gear every single week. This week, it was the Hank and Tank football jersey that Tank was sporting.
I saw Tank Ledger and I couldn't stop seeing Johnny Grunge from the old WCW, ECW tag team, Public Enemy. If you put Johnny Grunge next to Tank Ledger, it's remarkable what they look like. But Hank's been actually out with a little bit of injury, which he mentioned here, I think a shoulder injury. So Tank's been doing a lot of solo matches on Level Up for the past like month or so. So I've been kind of seeing that side of him. But obviously Hank is clear now, and it looks like they're probably going to be in this tag team turmoil match next week. I know they kind of they hinted at fighting New Cash Republic, so maybe they're going to be in the match as well. But they're definitely experimenting a lot with their looks, but that's the whole point of developmental, right? NXT, you kind of have to try different things to see what sticks to the wall.
Absolutely, yeah. So they tease that to get back on track, they need to take on the New Catch Republic, which whether this is part of the tag team turmoil or something separate, not sure.
Yeah, I mean, they haven't announced any of the teams in the tag team turmoil, so I just expected both these teams to be in it. But yeah, they could do like a separate just tag match if they wanted to.
Tag team turmoil, that's a gauntlet, right?
Either gauntlet or a four-way. I could be wrong. I thought it was a four-way tag team, but it could be a gauntlet. I don't know. They probably change it up whenever they feel like it.
We see Charlie Dempsey and the rest of the NQCC with Tavion Heights. And Dempsey asks Heights, do you know why you're here? No. Miles, why didn't you tell him why he's here? Miles, why didn't you tell him why he's here? Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't hear anything. They keep on doing these death jokes.
It's hilarious. Obviously, hopefully Miles is okay with it. It's probably his idea, honestly. Yeah. But I love how they just keep doing this every week. We're like, Dempsey has like no recollection that this guy is legit deaf and he cannot hear you. And the fact that they play it off is really funny.
Charlie's putting over Tavion Heights accolades, like multiple like amateur championships and all that, and says, I want you to join the No Quarter Catch crew. And Heights says, yeah, all right. Oh, playing hardball, are we? I'll one-up you. Next week, you face Damon Kemp, and turns to Kemp and says, it's what you deserve after what you did earlier. And Kemp just says, yeah, sure, all right. He goes, you drive a hard bargain. But
this segment was so funny on so many levels. Obviously, you mentioned the Miles Bourne thing, not be able to hear. But, like, I would say, like, I'm surprised that we're seeing this side of Dempsey, but look who his father is, right? William Regal, he was like the king of like switching from serious to comedy. So it doesn't surprise me at all, but it's really freaking funny. A lot of things about this, like even when he was running down Tavion's accolades, it was legit everything that Damon Kemp has done as well. So you see Damon Kemp in the background kind of throw his hands up like, yo, dude, like I have the same accolades as him. And like, yeah, the whole, playing hardball, huh? And Tavion's like, no, I actually want to join your group. I think it's just hilarious. It kind of started as like Charlie trying to like replicate Tony D'Angelo with the whole like capiche thing, but now it's kind of evolved into his own thing where he just seems like kind of comes off like a cartoony villain in a way, kind of like a James Bond parody of a villain. And it's really, I don't know how to describe it, but it's really entertaining. I'll say that much.
Yeah, it's cheesy, but I prefer this in a way to what he was doing. I thought often he came across that there was no personality, you know, when he was, oh, this Heritage Cup represents years of British, like, blah, blah, blah. I think he's actually been pretty fun, and I thought this is a pretty funny segment here.
So Chris Jones in the chat says that the problem with this is that it's never been explained that he's deaf. I'm pretty sure that he's explained it himself. I could be mixing up with maybe like Level Up promos, but they definitely acknowledged it. I feel like that he's been deaf, right?
Very early on, before he was with the No Quarter Catch crew, he I know commentary brought up that he was deaf because the crowd were doing the hand waves, which is the deaf symbol for clapping.
Yes.
But that was, you know, how we see in NXT, someone comes in, has a couple of sort of matches where they showcase themselves a little bit, but they lose, and then they disappear for a bit, and they come back a little bit repackaged. So they haven't really hit on it much, but
it's more like a cheeky inside joke, like if you know type of thing.
Exactly. It's just like when Axiom always makes jokes about A-Kid from NXT UK, or Bron Breakker would do Steiner references and that kind of things. It's if you know, but without explicitly telling you. We get a NXT Anonymous video where we see Gallus, and Joe Coffey is annoyed that Wesley's getting this other title shot, as he actually beat Wes recently. And that's when Tyson and Tyreek attack them because they were jumped just last week. So this feud's continuing. I assume this gets blown off on TV, but obviously Joe's still continuing a bit of a feud with Wesley there. So I don't see that story being completely over quite yet.
Yeah, I would hope not, because like Trey Miguel and Zachary Wentz were promoting it online, like, hey, if you need help, give us a call. So they kind of have to lead to that at some point. But maybe since Wes is tied up with Oba Femi right now, there's just something else for Gallus to do until then.
We get Fallon Henley versus Carlee Bright. Fallon dominating early on. Bright hits a running cross body and then applies a sleeper hold to Fallon, but Fallon backs her into the corner. They spill to the outside, and this is where Wendy Chu comes out and puts Kendall Gray.
Yes,
am I right?
You got it.
To sleep with the Cobra Clutch here. Carlee looks upset and distracted here. Gets drop kicked by Fallon. Carlee goes up top for a high cross, but misses, and Fallon delivers this pump handle over the head throw, followed by the Shining Wizard for the win.
Yeah, this was a short match here. I do like Booker T on commentary. He's always on one, but like Vic Joseph was talking about, like, rookies and whatnot, not getting respect in the locker room. And Booker T's like, you think Kurt Hennig respected me? He never respected me. Talking about his WCW days. The match was fine for what it was. It's just, Henley continues to impress me. She's like total evolution since turning heel, and I love it. But I agree with what you guys said last week about Wendy Chu's character, and like I wish it like had a little bit better explanation. Like I've been watching a lot of Stephen King movies recently, and I feel like whenever there's like a character change or something, they could easily explain like she entered their dreams or something happened to turn her. The fact that they just cold case just threw her on TV with no explanation whatsoever is very like unlike WWE recently. I feel like recently they're really good at like explaining things like this. For her to come back and just be this like evil dark character without any explanation is weird. You could have easily just been like she somehow got possessed or haunted or whatever, but there's been like no explanation on social media, on TV, or nothing. It's just Wendy's bad, and all of a sudden she's got this dark makeup on. It's really weird, and I hope that they do a better job of maybe like explaining it down the line.
Yeah, it's pretty simple storytelling. Think any superhero film you watch, you get an origin story for how the hero got their powers and how the villain got bad most of the time. Fell in a vat of acid or got struck by a meteorite or something. It's just give us something. As it can be corny or whatever, but give us a reason why this happened. She's sleeping so much, and I think Braden suggested a kind of Freddy Krueger thing or whatever.
Yeah.
Like it's just, and it's so just generic spooky wooky stuff.
And they have the crutch there with her, the Tian Sha thing. They could like show something like the mask or something, and just like another if you know type of thing where it's like, okay, well, this is the reason why she's like this, because she must have like touched something from the Tian Sha past or something along those lines. But just to kind of like throw her on TV with no explanation is a little out of character for NXT to do.
Carlee, I haven't seen a whole lot from quite yet. Obviously, she's pretty new to this. I think she needed to kind of lay in some of her strikes a little bit. They looked quite weak. And both crossbodies she did. She didn't quite get the hops or the spring for it. But obviously she's new, so hopefully she'll be improving. I agree with you about Fallon. I think she's just such a all-rounder. She was great baby face and has transitioned to a heel very nicely. I'm looking forward to seeing her enter the title scene, whether it's the North American scene with Kelani, or if we get a title change down the line and have a babyface champion after Roxanne, have Fallon go for that. But I think it's time she got some singles gold.
And we haven't seen Kendall Gray per se on NXT proper. She's done like tag matches and singles matches on Level Up. But from them two, between Bright and Gray, I think has impressed me the most because, like I said, she has like the amateur wrestling background. So I'm pretty sure they're probably setting that up with her Wendy Chu maybe next week. But I feel like once you start seeing Kendall Gray, you'll be like, okay, she's a lot more advanced than Carlee Bright is.
We see Eddie Thorpe leaving, and he says, I've been out of action for a while, but last week I had a good return, and I had a good showing tonight. Did you, Eddie? I'm pretty sure you were third eliminated out of 25 men. I don't know how that's a good showing, but all right.
This is the segment where you see Brooks Jensen getting arrested in the background. You see the cops putting him in a cop car.
Oh, okay. I completely missed that. Right. He says, I want to keep progressing. I want to challenge for the NXT North American or Heritage Cup. NXT is hot right now, and I want to be in the middle of it. Yeah, I feel you're going to be in the middle of the card, unfortunately. Eddie Thorpe not doing it for me. I don't know how you feel. I feel you watch more of him outside of WWE when he was doing the New Japan Strong stuff.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, he really impressed when he was in the New Japan Strong, but he really hasn't been able to bring a character. Like obviously he's going to his Native American heritage, but I feel like it hasn't really translated. Like in the beginning, he was like a DJ and he was like doing a lot of that stuff, and now he's like, I'm a little bit more authentic Native American, but it's really not translating at all. And like this segment was just him getting to his car saying, yeah, I'm gonna go after titles. But I this makes sense why Ben Buchanan didn't tweet last night, because he was in jail and he just posted a video not even 18 minutes ago, so we haven't seen it yet. But Brooks, we're sure you're watching this right now, so hopefully everything is okay with you, Brooks Jensen.
Yeah, we believe in you, Brooks. You got this.
Absolutely.
We see Javon, his ribs being taped up by the trainers backstage, and Trick Williams comes in to congratulate him and says, Ethan Page is a bad boy. He came in and forced his way to a championship match on his first night, and he's doing the same tonight. And Trick just says, I don't think Ethan Page belongs here. It doesn't matter how long his contract is signed for. He feels like an outsider. And Javon just says, I'll see you at Heatwave. And they shake hands. I like this sort of connection with Javon and Trick that's been going on.
The only problem is when they lay it on too heavy with two baby faces, like kind of having this repertoire backstage, you're like, okay, well, this match is not happening or something's going to be changed. So when they did this, I'm like, okay, well, it's going to turn into at least a triple threat. But as we find out later on, it might be a four-way. So as much as I like the idea of Trick versus Javon, I don't think it's going to headline Heatwave just yet.
We see next up the OC taking on Chase U with Duke Hudson and Andre Chase representing the university. Trick texts Vic Joseph during the match saying that he'll be on commentary for the main event. In the match, we get a leg sweep and elbow combo from Chase U to Anderson for a 2 count. Gallows tags in and hits a belly-to-back suplex to Chase and elbow drops. The Good Brothers isolating Andre in their corner. Chase eventually makes the hot tag to Duke, who comes in, delivers the Chase U bionic elbow to Gallows, and then a handstand head scissors to Anderson in the corner. Andre Chase comes off the apron with a somersault sent onto Gallows, and then Duke Hudson rolls up Anderson, and Ridge Holland sort of holds Duke down to help kind of give leverage for the pin here. The camera didn't quite pick up on it, and obviously they didn't have a whole lot of time here because they went straight to the next segment, but commentary didn't make any comment on it. But it was kind of if you were watching carefully in the background, you saw Ridge helping Duke Hudson get the win here.
And I like how they did that. It must have been the same camera guy that was behind CM Punk when he came out for the Drew match at Clash at the Castle. But I like how, like Chris says in the chat right now, like the finish was too subtle. He didn't see that coming. He didn't see what was wrong with the finish, which I think is the point. Like to see like what we're basically the eyes of Andre Chase here. We didn't know what happened. We saw him win, and Duke is obviously confused here, but we don't know what happened unless like we see a different camera angle, and that might bring people to go online and be like, okay, is there a fan footage of this? And guess what? It probably is. Probably somebody was set up there to record from that angle just to show Ridge winning. So I do like that, and obviously we'll find out later on what's going to happen. But this is a real interesting wrinkle here with Ridge kind of showing his bad side, and Duke like not snitching on him per se, like you don't know what side he's on here. So I do like that that whole idea being played here. Good to see Andre Chase back in the ring. He was out for a couple of months and he just returned recently, so good to see him back in the ring. And I love how Booker gets so mad at Vic sometimes. Like when Vic was he was showing off that Trick Williams texted him about joining commentary. Booker is like so mad. Like, why did he text you? Why is he texting you? He should be texting me. So to see Booker get angry is really funny. But yeah, this match was fine for what it was. But obviously the bigger story here is will Duke tell on Ridge or not?
Well, we all know that NXT talent don't rewatch NXT until the following Tuesday. So I see it being Riley Osborne being back with the iPad showing maybe Andre Chase what Ridge did, because he was watching at home in the UK. So, I think
they get different camera angles in the UK, right? When they show NXT in the UK, it's from a different camera angle.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. We see Kelani Jordan with Ava, Robert Stone, and Stevie Turner just standing there. You assume she's just been complaining to Ava before this segment. And Kelani says her next challenger should be someone who doesn't complain and doesn't think she's owed anything. And that's when Ariana Grace comes in and says, well, thank you, I accept. Kelani says, oh, I was actually thinking of someone who never asked for anything, and that person is Sol Ruka. And Ariana explains that she doesn't think Sol holds herself like a champion, whereas she's a pageant queen. So Stone suggests next week Ariana versus Sol Ruka to determine Kelani Jordan's opponent.
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff going on here. We still don't know what Mr. Stone or Robert Stone's character is. Is he like the assistant to Ava? Stevie Turner's just been hanging around backstage for the past couple of weeks, but like just by not saying nothing, you already know what she's feeling. Like she's upset. Obviously, everybody's skipping the line, and she's just wants a title shot. So I feel like she's eventually going to get that. Ariana Grace is continues to impress me when she said like the line like, "Oh, I'm so much better than Sol Ruka that I think it's funny," and she does like a little fake little laugh. Like you could tell she got all this comedic timing from her father, and I really hope that they eventually do something between her and Santino. Whether it be Santino shows up at NXT one week or vice versa with Ariana showing up in TNA. But obviously the match here is going to be Grace and Sol Ruka, but I feel like Stevie Turner is eventually going to get a title shot, because why else is she just hanging around in the background all these weeks?
Yeah, so I assume Sol v Kelani at
yeah, that would be a really good match. Yeah,
babyface v babyface, but that should be really good. My one question: where is Gigi?
That's a good question. It's a very good question. I'm trying to
feel
think.
It's been a few weeks where we've just seen Ariana on her own, whereas when they were doing the story with her and Gigi, they were kind of side by side. Was
the last time we saw her when she like took her stuff and left the locker room, or did we see her again after that? Because I think that definitely happened where she like walked off, but I can't remember. Okay. She hasn't even been on like Level Up. I feel like I'm trying to.
Yeah, I feel
it's
been a while. We haven't seen her.
I know she was like there was like some social media things where people thought maybe she was upset about her. Yeah, she hasn't wrestled since March, so it's been a while. It was she lost against Ariana Grace back in an episode of NXT back in March. So yeah, I'm not sure what her status is.
Yeah, and that was to have her then get the makeover and all that.
Yep.
So, we see Chase U and Thea is congratulating them on their win and says, see what happens when we're all on the same page. And Chase asks, what were the OC complaining about after the match? and Thea, who clearly saw something as well, goes, oh, I don't know. I didn't see anything. Chase goes, oh, Duke, were you up to your old tricks again? And Duke's looking a little bit confused and says, no, I didn't do anything or see anything. And Ridge Holland is like, yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. So all three of them here are kind of on the same page where they know they got a bit of a dirty win here, and Chase is completely oblivious. And as Chase and Thea walk off, Ridge and Duke share a bit of a look.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that could happen here. Like you could have Ridge and Duke kind of break off and do their own thing. You could have Duke snitching on him. You could have Riley coming back next week. And I do like the wrinkle that like Thea is obviously like in on it as well, but she's like not caring. And I just love the comedic timing. Like when Chase is like, Duke, are you up to your old tricks again? And then Duke is like, me? I didn't do nothing. I didn't see nothing. Like their timing is really good. You could tell like they've they've established this for a while now. They finally got like the rhythm of Chase U. So I'm really intrigued what's going to happen next. Chris Jones in the chat did update us that Gigi is injured. That's why they dropped the storyline because of that. So that would explain it. But yeah, I'm really intrigued on where this is going to go next. And like you said, I'm sure Riley's going to come back next week with the iPad because, you know, they, like you said, they have to watch NXT a week in delay. And he's going to reveal the truth about Ridge's intentions here in Chase U.
So I see a potential heel turn for Chase U, maybe.
Yeah.
Especially with Thea now in on it. It's, you know, Chase U've gone through a lot. And now it's kind of, as long as they're winning, it's for the betterment of the university, I guess.
Yeah, I just hope that they don't all turn on Chase, Andre Chase. I can see that happening where they all kind of turn on him. Maybe like Riley's on his side. If they do turn on Chase, though, there's only one man that can help him, and that is Bodie. Remember Bodie? Bodie Hayward?
Oh, yeah.
The guy looked like a Bo Dallas meets Billy Gunn. You never know. You know, there's only one person that makes sense to come back and help Chase. So me personally, I'm selfishly want him. So
I don't know about that one.
If it happens, I'm letting you know right away.
Fair enough. We see Fallon Henley, Jacy Jayne, and Jazmyn next, and they are mad that Ariana and Sol are getting a #1 contendership match next week. They say so much for seniority, and Jacy is just staring at the Cody Rhodes mask and says, yeah, I'm sick about how things are run around here. She's looking a little bit crazy. So are we maybe teasing these three are gonna, I don't know, take out Ava or go against the authority or something here?
I feel like since Fallon turned heel, she's been kind of like interacting with Jazmyn and Jacy in the past. I'm just confused on what's going on with Jacy. Is like the mask turning her crazy? Because now she kind of like is on like Tatum Paxley levels with like craziness. So I'm not sure how this is going to pay off. You would think Cody would have to come back, maybe. Or I don't know what they're going to do with this with this whole mask thing, what the payoff is. But yeah,
Cody comes back and it's just, I'm taking that thing back.
Take it back,
You're being weird. Stop being
that'll
weird.
Be hilarious. Just take it back and put it right back in the brown paper bag. Yeah, I can definitely see that happening. But yeah, they're obviously going to team up to face them, I guess, in a 6-woman match, I would say.
So next week, we have announced a tag team turmoil match to determine Fraser and Axiom's opponents at Heatwave. We have a Heritage Cup match between Nathan Fraser and Tony D'Angelo. Sol Ruka versus Ariana Grace for the #1 contendership for the North American title. And Damon Kemp versus Tavion Heights.
I think that match should be great, honestly. The two like college wrestlers with Heights and Damon Kemp. I feel like that's going to be a really good like sleeper match.
We go to our main event, which is the #1 contendership for the NXT Championship. And it's Javon Evans taking on Ethan Page with Trick Williams on commentary. Page is just attacking the hurt ribs of Javon Evans, delivers a backbreaker for a 2, goes for Ego's Edge, which is countered, and then Javon delivers a double stomp to the ribs of Page. After the break, we see Ego is dominating. He's throwing Evans ribs first on the top rope and then pops him up into this big power slam, followed by the Lion Tamer, sort of the Boston Crab with the knee going against the ribs there. Javon starts to fire up, hits his Osprey-esque flipping kick, and then a springboard clothesline for a 2 count, followed by a blue Thunderbomb. Javon then goes up to the top, but gets tripped by Ethan Page, who lands ribs first on the turnbuckle, and then Ego delivers a gut wrench into the Ego's Edge for the win.
This is a really good match, honestly. I think this is a better showing from Ethan Page in NXT than his match with Trick. I know a lot of people after that match were like, oh, what's the big deal with Ethan Page? He's okay. Like, I don't see the big deal about him. But I feel like with this match, Ethan Page was definitely able to show off a little bit more of his whole presentation and everything. And working with somebody with, like, the bounciness of Javon Evans, I think works in Ethan Page's favor here. And I like the story that, obviously, Ethan Page was taken out of the match and he didn't get a fair shot. But Javon Evans was able to beat 24 other guys and he has his ribs all taped up, so there's an excuse on why he would lose. So I think it worked on all their favors. Booker T is still upset on commentary that Trick didn't text him about joining them, so he was still going off about that. But I do like this ending, and I do like the excuse that Javon Evans has on losing this match. Like, he didn't look weak in defeat at all in losing this match, and Ethan Page looks a little bit stronger because he beat the #1 contender. So
I thought this was a #1 contenders match, no?
No, not per se. They didn't like officially say it, but I think that was like the whole. Yeah, I think that was the whole like explanation for it. But as far as I know, it wasn't like officially. But
right. I was under the impression that Ethan Page was now Trick Williams' challenger in Toronto.
No, because as of right now, that's still the match is still Trick versus Javon for Heatwave.
Okay, I was mistaken then. So you see it potentially being a triple threat?
Well, as we saw what happened after, somebody else got involved. So I think it actually might lead to a 4-way because Shawn Spears was the final person in the Battle Royal. He doesn't really have he doesn't have like an argument on why he should be in the match. But I feel like just the way
so far.
The way it ended, you could be like, "Hey, I'm from Canada. Can I wrestle at Heatwave?" That could be his excuse.
Yeah, so after the match, Shawn Spears runs out and beats up Javon Evans. Trick Williams runs in to take him out. Ego then attacks Trick, and they're double teaming on Williams when Evans comes off the top rope with a double springboard cutter.
Amazing.
To take out the heels as the show ends. But yeah, kind of still unclear what this main event is. I was under the impression we were getting Paige versus Trick, but looking on the Wikipedia, yeah, it's still saying Javon Evans versus Trick Williams. I don't know. I feel it's maybe too early to go Javon versus Trick one-on-one. I kind of like to see Javon be the one who beats Femi down the line for that title. I do see Ethan Page getting involved. I wouldn't be totally against a triple threat. I don't know how I feel about either Oro Mensah or Shawn Spears being involved. That brings down my interest level, I've got to say.
Yeah, Ethan Page, he tweeted 2 hours ago saying, "I pinned the number one contender, so that makes me the number one contender," right? With his little cheeky emoji pointing at himself. So obviously he's going to fight that. He's going to fight somehow to get into the match one way or another. So maybe he has to beat Oro Mensah to get in the match, and that's how they pay that off.
Yeah, well, I guess we'll find out next week. Still kind of waiting for confirmed matches for Heatwave, but I assume we're getting Sol Ruka versus Kelani Jordan. I assume we're getting Lola Vice versus Roxanne Perez. You think Fraser and Axiom versus Stax and Luca?
Yeah, because I can't think of any other tag teams right now. They're not going to go with Gallus. They're not going to go with Tyreek and Tyson. Like, I can't really see any other teams right now.
I mean, there's Chase U as well, maybe.
Unless you put like a surprise TNA tag team in this tag team turmoil. You could put like an ABC or the Rascals, and maybe they kind of get the win and they face off at Heatwave. I can see that happening as well. At this point, like, we're expecting some sort of cameo every week on NXT. So the tag team turmoil makes perfect sense to throw in a tag team from TNA.
Yeah, I'd love to see ABC. I know Braden put out last week. What about Motor City Machine Guns?
Yeah, Motor City Machine Guns. How do you feel about Speedball Mountain? Are you aware who Speedball Mountain is?
I am aware of Speedball Mountain. I mean, yeah, Trent obviously has that connection with NXT, so people know him. Speedball from Canada.
What? That would actually be kind of cool if you put, like we said, we could have a Hank and Tank in this tag team turmoil as well as Newcastle Republic. If you have Dunn and Bates in the ring and out comes Speedball Mountain, you have that Trent Tyler face off. That'd be kind of cool.
I think you're probably right. I think maybe an outside team makes the most sense for that. But we'll see. There's always the opportunity, even though that it's number one contenders match next week, you can always do something screwy to have.
I hear Brooks Jensen in the background. The cops are going after Brooks. I hear the
Oh, absolutely, yes.
Brooks, be careful out there, Brooks.
Yeah. Well, that's what we thought of last night's NXT. I didn't think it was a bad show. We're kind of shaping things up for Heatwave. I actually really enjoyed the Battle Royal this week. I thought that was pretty good. I do think it was a better showing from Page. I think where Page excels is where he's dominating and bullying as a wrestler. I think obviously his matches with Darby Allin, we've seen both in Evolve and in AEW, is where he's excelled. The match against Trick, I think they're both kind of big guys. He wasn't able to kind of show that dominance quite as much. And yeah, I think if they do end up going to the singles match, I think maybe you've got to add some kind of stipulation like no holds barred or something like that to make it a bit more interesting, because I found the first one a little bland. But yeah, better showing this week from Paige. Always sounds good on the mic. But overall, this was a thumbs up show for me. I quite enjoyed this week's.
I enjoyed it. Like, within 2 hours, you're able to establish programs for every single title. The world title, the women's North American title, the men's North American title, the tag team, and the Heritage Cup all got set up their next opponents. And the fact that they're able to do that within 2 hours is really remarkable, honestly. And I'm enjoying NXT. I say it all the time. Like, the fact, like, it's not really like, I guess it's not really what's obvious, the fact that we get like 3 back-to-back women's matches, because like it's just normal for NXT to do. Yeah. But like it should be like more like promoted, I guess. Like, this is a real woman heavy show as NXT. Even like TNA hasn't been really as woman heavy in the past as they used to be, but NXT really likes to showcase their women, and they get like sometimes half of the show as far as in-ring talent goes, and I think that's remarkable.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Siino, do you have the feedback thread open there?
I do. You want me to start here with Corey?
Absolutely. Every week we put up our feedback thread on the POISONRANA Facebook group. Go ahead and join that. You'll find a POISONRANA page, and that will lead you to our private group where we post, memes, thoughts, opinions, all of that, and our weekly NXT feedback thread.
Absolutely. We're going to start with Corey here, who says, yeah, not exactly a fan of Henry being tossed out so quickly. Also not sold on the big 2 title matches for Heatwave. A fatal 4-way does nothing for me. I would rather it stay Javon versus Trick. And Roxanne versus Lola is going to be pretty cold and an absolutely massive step down from Battleground in terms of quality. It seems really clear that Lola was very clearly a last-minute replacement for Julia. Okay, so that could be an explanation, because I think everybody kind of figured that Julia was going to get that spot. So if she's not cleared... Well, the thing is, they haven't made the match official, right? So they can kind of leave it to the last minute where Julia could show up and be the opponent if they want to do it, if they could do it.
Yeah, or even triple threat, where if she's not 100%, it still kind of hides her a bit. I don't know.
Because Julia is
wrestling like the week after, isn't she?
Yeah, I was going to say that. She's going to be on the Marigold show the week after, so you would think that she'd be okay for Heatwave.
We go to Magan, who says, as far as Battle Royals go, tonight's was above average. Joe Hendry stole the thunder, and for good reason, and he's gone. If someone says they don't believe in him, I don't want to talk to him. Javon Evans winning that made me feel better. They're strapping the jetpack to him. I love that the show plugged Tatum's trip to TNA this past Friday. The women's tag 3-way was decent, and I'm not sold on Roxy Lola because there's no one to root for. Oba versus Wes in a 1v1 is the right move after being in triple threats in the last 2 pay-per-views. Main event was solid, but Javon got protected, and the ending with Spears rearing his head tells me they're pivoting into a 4-way. Heatwave is in Canada. Go figure. Solid show. Joe Hendry better come back because a quick cameo isn't going to cut it.
He'll be back. Like I said, he had that segment with Shawn Michaels in the back. Even Shawn Michaels said, I believe in him. So we're definitely going to see Joe Hendry pop up one way or another. And honestly, them showing the TNA footage says a lot, because number one, they would never show footage from an outside company. When AEW was working in TNA, I can't recall them showing any of the TNA footage. And not only that, but you're showing footage of one of your own wrestlers losing to an outside talent. So they're showing the fact that Tatum Paxley lost to Jordan Grace. So obviously it could mean, they want to keep this relationship strong, but also maybe they're trying to keep Jordan Grace in the back of everybody's mind in case she does end up showing back up.
Absolutely.
We go to Fire Frank here, who says, definitely popped for Henry. That was a fun start to the show. Love the continued push of Evans. Maybe we're heading toward a triple threat or 4-way with the Page win in the main event and Spears' involvement. Side note, I was dying at Booker being pissed at Vic for not telling him about Trick coming out, but yet he still did his ad-libs. Then told Trick that Vic is a snitch. Why are you texting him? Much better than last week's weird hangover show. Heatwave should be a strong card. Yeah, Heatwave will be on fire. Frank.
Absolutely. And finally, we go to Cameron from Bristol. He says, episode was fine, set up Heatwave nicely. NXT title looking like a 4-way is a good way of getting the title on Page while protecting Trick and giving Javon a big match. Roxy and Vice look set. People will be disappointed because of no Julia, but Vice and Roxy have earned their match and will put on a banger. And Julia was never promised, so people can only blame themselves for expecting a match that was never booked. The Forbidden Door may be open, but it shouldn't deter from the stars NXT have been building for the last 6 months. Oba versus Wesley already feels big. I wonder if the Turmoil match is another chance to open the Forbidden Door.
So yeah, a lot of similar thoughts and ideas that we presented on this show. So yeah, a lot of moving parts here. But yeah, like I feel like there's some criticism about like some of these matches not feeling as hot in Toronto, as you said, it is pretty hot in Canada. But I feel like Lola and Roxanne will be a pretty good match to do there. I feel like it won't be cold at all.
No, I think Lola will have a lot of support for that match. Absolutely. And I think,
and you can always like have Julia show up at the end. She might just come out, because last time we saw her, she was in the crowd and she was like looking at Roxanne, if I'm not mistaken. So maybe this time she actually comes out and enters the ring and faces off for Roxanne, and that alone will get a big pop in Toronto. I feel like, even if she doesn't, if she can wrestle, at least do that.
Yeah, 100%. Well, there you have it. that's up next for this week. I'm not going to be here next week, but Siino, I believe you'll be joining Braden at the regular time of Tuesday night at 10:15.
Yep, I'll be here. Say my name.
Yes, awesome. Well, thank you very much for joining us today. Thank you, everyone in the room. Thank you very much, Chris Jones, who was contributing a lot for tonight's show. Thanks, Jake, for the super chat. Kevin, Frank, and everyone else, thank you very much. We'll chat to you very, very soon on the road to Heatwave in Toronto. Take care. Goodbye. Be safe. Ahoy!
First time in a long time, but back like I never left. Taking each day as it comes, you know me, I don't read ahead. Watch me burn down everything, BDE on the TV set. When I'm in control on the road, you can never really know what's up next.